Beneath the emerald canopy of the Yucatán Peninsula, where ancient limestone whispers secrets to the wind, lies a world that has remained hidden for over 1,000 years. Not buried treasure, not lost gold, but something far more extraordinary: entire cities carved into the living rock, stretching through endless miles of flooded caverns and forgotten chambers. Cities that the Maya believed were the very gates to the realm of the dead. Tonight, we descend into the mysteries of the Maya underworld, not just to explore their ruins, but to uncover why these lost cities beneath the earth continue to challenge everything we thought we knew about one of history's most enigmatic civilizations. Close your eyes, settle in, and let history carry you into the depths of a world that exists between life and death, between the known and the unknowable. While European explorers were still mapping coastlines and claiming territories above ground, the ancient Maya had already mastered a three-dimensional universe that extended far beyond the surface of the earth. Their cosmos wasn't simply up and down, heaven and earth. It was a complex, layered reality where the most sacred realm lay not in the sky, but deep beneath their feet, in the watery darkness of the underworld. The Maya conceived their universe as three interconnected layers: the heavens above, where the gods dwelt among the stars; the middle world of earth, where humans lived their daily lives; and below, the most mysterious and powerful realm of all, Xibalba, the place of fear and transformation. But this wasn't just mythology. This was a living geography that shaped every aspect of Maya civilization, from where they built their cities to how they understood life, death, and rebirth. What makes this even more remarkable is that the Maya didn't just believe in this underworld, they could actually enter it. Across the Yucatán Peninsula, the earth is punctured by thousands of natural portals, cenotes, water-filled sinkholes that drop deep into the limestone bedrock, revealing vast networks of flooded caves that stretch for hundreds of miles beneath the jungle floor. To the Maya, these weren't simply water sources. They were the actual entrances to Xibalba, the realm of the death gods. And now, after centuries of mystery, modern underwater archaeologists are discovering that the Maya were right. These cenotes do lead to lost cities, not mythical realms, but actual archaeological sites where Maya priests and nobles once performed the most sacred rituals of their civilization. Cities that have been perfectly preserved in the dark, oxygen-free waters for over a millennium. The story begins with water, as all life stories do. The Yucatán Peninsula is unique on Earth, a massive limestone platform with no rivers, no lakes, no surface water at all. When the ancient Maya arrived here over 3,000 years ago, they found a landscape that seemed impossibly hostile to human settlement. No flowing streams, no mountain springs, nothing but endless jungle and bedrock that seemed to stretch forever. But the Maya discovered something extraordinary. Beneath this seemingly barren landscape lay one of the world's largest freshwater aquifer systems, a hidden ocean trapped in limestone caves. And occasionally, when the thin roof of these underground chambers collapsed, it created cenotes, circular windows into this hidden world below. These cenotes became the foundation of Maya civilization in the Yucatan. Great cities like Chichen Itza, Mayapan, and Uxmal were built around these sacred water sources. But the Maya quickly realized that cenotes were more than just practical necessities. They were gateways to something much more profound, a vast underground realm that seemed to mirror their most sacred myths. When Maya priests descended into these cenotes, they found something that must have taken their breath away. The narrow openings above expanded into vast cathedral-like chambers, their walls adorned with natural formations that looked like the architecture of gods. Stalactites hung like stone icicles, creating shadowy alcoves perfect for ritual offerings. Underground rivers flowed through passages that seemed to stretch into infinity, disappearing into darkness that no torchlight could penetrate. To a people who believed that the underworld was the source of all life, who understood that rain and fertility came from the depths below, these cenotes must have seemed like proof that their cosmology was literally true. Here was Xibalba, not as metaphor, but as physical reality, a place they could actually visit, explore, and inhabit. Recent discoveries have revealed just how extensively the Maya used these underground spaces. The Great Maya Aquifer Project, led by underwater archaeologist Guillermo de Anda, has been systematically exploring the Cenote systems around Chichen Itza, using cutting-edge technology. What they've found has rewritten our understanding of Maya civilization. In 2018, the project announced that two separate cave systems near the coastal city of Tulum were actually connected, forming the longest known underwater cave system in the world. 347 kilometers of flooded passages that stretch beneath the jungle like an underground highway. But more remarkable than the size of this system is what it contains. As de Anda's team has explored these underwater passages, they've discovered over 200 archaeological sites, places where the Maya left offerings, performed ceremonies, and even built elaborate shrines deep beneath the earth. These aren't just scattered artifacts. They're organized ritual spaces, underwater temples that suggest the Maya had a far more sophisticated relationship with their underworld than anyone had previously imagined. The archaeological richness of these sites is staggering. In the Sac-Acton cave system alone, researchers have found ancient human bones dating back over 12,000 years, making them some of the oldest human remains ever discovered in the Americas. They've uncovered the fossilized bones of extinct Ice Age animals, giant ground sloths, early elephants called gomphotheres, cave bears, creatures that roamed the Yucatán when it was a very different landscape. But perhaps most intriguingly, they found evidence that the Maya continued to use these caves for ritual purposes throughout their civilization's history. Elaborate shrines to Maya gods, ceramic vessels filled with precious offerings, walls carved with hieroglyphic inscriptions, all preserved in the dark. Still waters where they were placed over 1,000 years ago. One discovery in particular has captured the imagination of archaeologists worldwide. In 2019, the team announced the rediscovery of Balamku, the cave of the jaguar god, a vast underground chamber system located just 2.5 kilometers from the famous pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza. Balamku had actually been discovered in 1966 by local farmers, but after a brief investigation by archaeologist Victor Segovia Pinto, the entrance was deliberately sealed and its location lost to science for over 50 years. When de Anda's team relocated and entered the cave in 2019, they found it exactly as it had been left by the ancient Maya, untouched, undisturbed, a time capsule of Maya religious practice. What they discovered inside defied all expectations. The cave system extends for nearly 3 kilometers beneath the earth, its chambers connected by passages that require expert cave diving skills to navigate. But most remarkably, scattered throughout these chambers are over 150 ritual artifacts, ceramic incense burners, jade ornaments, obsidian blades, and intricately carved stone sculptures, all placed with deliberate care in specific locations throughout the cave. These aren't random deposits. They represent one of the most complete and undisturbed Maya ritual sites ever discovered. An underground temple complex that offers unprecedented insights into how the Maya understood and interacted with their underworld. Each artifact tells a story about Maya beliefs, their understanding of death and rebirth, their relationship with the gods who ruled the watery depths below. But Balamku represents something even more significant. Its location, just beneath one of the Maya world's most important ceremonial centers, suggests that the surface architecture of places like Chichen Itza may have been deliberately positioned above these underground sacred spaces. The Maya may have been building their cities not just around cenotes for practical water access, but above entire underground temple complexes that served as the spiritual foundation for their civilization. This possibility has led researchers to reconsider the very nature of Maya urban planning. Using ground-penetrating radar and other advanced technologies, the Great Maya Aquifer Project has been mapping the underground geography beneath Chichen Itza, searching for the hidden connections between surface architecture and the underworld below. What they're discovering suggests that the Maya may have been far more sophisticated in their understanding of underground hydrology than anyone previously imagined. The famous pyramid of Kukulkan, for instance, appears to be positioned at the exact center of 4 major cenotes, as if the entire sacred precinct was designed as a cosmic diagram, mapping the relationship between the surface world and the watery underworld below. Even more intriguingly, recent geophysical surveys suggest there may be a 5th cenote directly beneath the pyramid itself, a hidden chamber that could represent the axis mundi, the center of the Maya universe, the point where all 3 levels of their cosmos intersect. If confirmed, this discovery would revolutionize our understanding of Maya architecture and urban planning. It would suggest that cities like Chichen Itza weren't just built on the landscape, but were integrated into it in ways that connected the visible world above with the hidden sacred geography below. This integration of surface and underground architecture reflects a fundamental aspect of Maya cosmology that Western archaeology is only beginning to understand. For the Maya, the underworld wasn't a distant, abstract realm. It was an active, living space that directly influenced the world of the living. The gods of Xibalba controlled rain, fertility, the growth of crops, the health of communities. Maintaining proper relationships with these underworld deities wasn't just spiritual practice, it was essential for survival. This understanding shaped every aspect of Maya society. Their calendar systems tracked not just celestial events, but also the seasonal rhythms that connected surface agriculture with the underground flow of water. Their architectural projects weren't just monuments to human achievement, but were designed as functional interfaces between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. Their ritual practices centered around maintaining cosmic balance, ensuring that the forces of the underworld remained benevolent toward human communities. And when that balance was threatened during times of drought, disease, or social upheaval, the Maya turned to increasingly elaborate ceremonies designed to restore harmony between the surface world and the depths below. Some of these ceremonies, as we're learning from underwater archaeological discoveries, involved human sacrifice on a scale that has shocked even experienced researchers. The sacred Cenote at Chichen Itza, explored extensively in the early 20th century, yielded the remains of over 100 individuals, men, women, and children, who had been thrown into the deep waters as offerings to the rain god Chak. Recent analysis of these remains has revealed disturbing patterns. Many of the victims were children between the ages of 3 and 11, and analysis of their bones shows signs of malnutrition and poor health. These weren't members of the elite being honored with elaborate burials. These appear to have been society's most vulnerable members, sacrificed during times of crisis in desperate attempts to appease the gods of the underworld. But human sacrifice represents just one aspect of Maya interaction with their underworld. The vast majority of cenote offerings consisted of precious objects, jade jewelry, obsidian blades, ceramic vessels, textiles, and metal ornaments, items that represented the finest products of Maya craftsmanship. These offerings suggest that the Maya viewed their relationship with the underworld as a form of reciprocal exchange. giving their most valuable possessions to the gods below in exchange for rain, fertility, and continued prosperity. The sophistication of this exchange system is evident in the careful placement of offerings throughout cave systems, rather than simply throwing objects into cenotes. Maya priests appear to have ventured deep into the underground passages, placing specific offerings in particular chambers according to complex ritual protocols that we're only beginning to decipher. This suggests that the Maya had developed remarkable skills in underground exploration and navigation. Moving through flooded cave systems requires expert knowledge of diving techniques, understanding of underwater currents and air pockets, and the ability to navigate in complete darkness through passages that can extend for kilometers beneath the earth. The fact that the Maya were able to establish and maintain ritual sites deep within these cave systems indicates a level of technological and organizational sophistication that challenges conventional understanding of pre-Columbian American civilizations. These weren't simple agricultural societies making occasional offerings at nearby water sources. They were conducting complex, coordinated religious operations in some of the most challenging environments on Earth. The complexity of these underground operations becomes even more astonishing when we consider the Maya understanding of cave systems as living entities. To the Maya, caves weren't simply empty spaces carved by water through limestone. They were breathing, pulsing organisms with their own consciousness and spiritual power. The stalactites and stalagmites weren't just mineral formations. They were the bones and teeth of sleeping gods, growing imperceptibly over millennia as the earth itself dreamed. This animistic understanding of caves explains why Maya priests treated these spaces with such elaborate ritual care. Every chamber had its own personality, its own requirements for proper offerings and ceremonies. Some caves were considered masculine, associated with war gods and requiring offerings of obsidian weapons and warrior regalia. Others were feminine, connected to fertility deities and honored with jade jewelry and ceramic vessels shaped like wombs and seeds. The Maya developed an intricate classification system for different types of caves and cenotes, each serving specific ritual purposes. Pit cenotes, with their narrow openings that expanded into vast chambers below, were seen as birth canals connecting the surface world to the womb of the Earth Mother. Cylinder cenotes, with their steep vertical walls, served as direct communication channels with the underworld gods. Cave cenotes, with their horizontal entrances, were pathways for souls traveling between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. But perhaps most significant were the basin cenotes shallow, wide pools that served as gathering places for entire communities during the most important religious festivals. These sites weren't just individual pilgrimage destinations. They were amphitheaters where hundreds of people could witness the dramatic ceremonies that maintained cosmic balance. Archaeological evidence suggests that these ceremonies followed seasonal patterns tied to the agricultural calendar and the movement of celestial bodies. During the dry season, when the cenote water levels dropped and underground chambers became accessible, Maya priests would descend into the depths to perform renewal rituals designed to ensure the return of the rains. During the wet season, when rising waters sealed off the deeper passages, ceremonies focused on the surface cenotes, celebrating the successful return of life-giving moisture from the underworld. This seasonal rhythm of ritual activity created a dynamic relationship between Maya communities and their underground sacred spaces. The cenotes weren't static temples visited occasionally by individual worshippers. They were active participants in an ongoing cosmic drama, their changing water levels serving as a divine calendar that guided the spiritual life of entire regions. The sophistication of this system becomes clear when we examine the astronomical alignments built into Maya cenote architecture. Recent studies have revealed that many cenote sites were positioned according to precise calculations involving the movement of Venus, the planet the Maya associated with their feathered serpent god Kukulkan. During specific times of the year, Venus would appear to rise directly from certain cenotes, creating spectacular visual effects that reinforce the connection between the celestial realm and the watery underworld. These alignments weren't accidental. They required generations of careful observation and mathematical calculation, demonstrating that Maya astronomer priests possessed remarkably sophisticated knowledge of celestial mechanics. But more than that, they reveal the Maya understanding that the universe operated according to interconnected cycles that could be predicted, influenced, and harmonized through proper ritual practice. The ball game, one of the most distinctive features of Maya civilization, played a crucial role in this cosmic drama. Ball courts have been found at virtually every major Maya site, and many are positioned directly adjacent to cenotes or built over cave systems. This isn't coincidence. It reflects the Maya belief that the ball game was itself a ritual reenactment of the mythical journey through the underworld. According to the Popol Vuh, the sacred book of Maya creation mythology, the hero twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, traveled to Xibalba to challenge the death gods to a ball game. Their victory over the lords of the underworld ensured the continuation of life on Earth and established the pattern for human interaction with the forces of death and rebirth. When Maya nobles played the ball game adjacent to cenotes, they weren't simply engaging in sport or entertainment. They were participating in a cosmic ritual that reenacted this mythical victory, demonstrating their worthiness to rule by proving their ability to navigate the challenges of the underworld and emerge triumphant. The stakes of these games were often literally life and death. Archaeological evidence from several sites suggests that losing players were sometimes sacrificed, their bodies thrown into nearby cenotes as offerings to the underworld gods. But this wasn't simply punishment for poor athletic performance. It was the fulfillment of a sacred obligation, ensuring that the cosmic balance maintained by the hero twins' mythical victory continued to protect human communities. The complexity of these belief systems becomes even more apparent when we examine the elaborate mythology surrounding the geography of Xibalba itself. According to Maya texts, the underworld wasn't a single realm, but a complex landscape of rivers, crossroads, and architectural marvels that souls had to navigate on their journey to the afterlife. The journey began with 3 treacherous rivers, one filled with scorpions, another with blood, and a third with pus that had to be crossed before reaching the heart of Xibalba. These weren't metaphorical obstacles, but actual geographic features that the Maya believed existed in the physical underworld beneath their feet. Modern exploration of cenote systems has revealed underwater formations that correspond remarkably well to these mythological descriptions. Underground rivers flowing through cave systems create distinct chemical environments, some acidic from organic decay, others mineral-rich from limestone dissolution, still others stagnant and oxygen-depleted. To ancient Maya explorers descending into these waters with primitive diving equipment, these different aquatic environments might well have seemed like the deadly rivers described in their sacred texts. Beyond the rivers lay the crossroads of Xibalba, where 4 paths diverged in different directions, each trying to confuse and mislead travelers with deceptive voices. Archaeological mapping of major cenote systems has revealed that many do indeed branch into multiple passages at key decision points, creating underground mazes that would challenge even experienced modern cave divers. The Maya understanding of these underground labyrinths was encoded in their architectural projects above ground. Many Maya cities were laid out according to patterns that mirror the geography of cenote systems, with ceremonial causeways connecting different temple complexes in ways that replicate the branching passages of the underworld below. This suggests that Maya urban planners weren't just designing cities for the convenience of surface dwellers. They were creating terrestrial maps of the sacred geography below, allowing people to navigate the symbolic landscape of Xibalba without actually descending into the dangerous physical realm. But for those who did make the literal journey into the underworld, the Maya developed remarkable technologies and techniques for underwater exploration. Recent analysis of artifacts found in deep cenote chambers has revealed evidence of sophisticated diving equipment, weighted nets for carrying offerings to specific depths, carved stone anchors for marking ritual locations, even primitive breathing apparatus made from hollow reeds and animal bladders. These technologies allowed Maya priests to establish permanent ritual installations far beneath the Earth's surface. In some cenote systems, archaeologists have discovered stone platforms built on underwater ledges, altars carved directly into cave walls, and even architectural modifications to natural cave formations designed to enhance their acoustic properties for ritual chanting and music. The acoustic engineering of these underground spaces reveals another dimension of Maya technical sophistication. Many cenote chambers possess remarkable natural acoustic properties. Their curved walls and high ceilings create resonant spaces where whispers can be heard across vast distances and chanting takes on otherworldly harmonics. The Maya clearly understood and exploited these acoustic phenomena. Ritual artifacts found in cenote chambers include conch shell trumpets, ceramic drums, and bone flutes specifically designed for underwater use. The sounds produced by these instruments in the resonant chambers of cenotes would have created audio experiences unlike anything possible on the surface, reinforcing the sense that participants were entering an entirely different realm of existence. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Maya underworld exploration was their development of what can only be described as underwater libraries. In several major cenote systems, archaeologists have discovered carefully curated collections of carved stone tablets, ceramic codices, and other record-keeping materials deliberately placed in specific chambers, according to organizational systems we're still trying to decipher. These underwater archives weren't random deposits of sacred objects. They appear to represent systematic attempts to preserve important cultural and religious information in locations protected from surface threats like warfare, fire, or natural disasters. The Maya may have understood that the stable, oxygen-free environment of deep cenote chambers would preserve these materials far better than any surface structure. The implications of this discovery are staggering. It suggests that much of what we consider lost Maya knowledge may not be lost at all. It may be deliberately preserved in underwater archives that we've only begun to explore. As underwater archaeological techniques continue to advance, these cenote libraries may yield insights into Maya science, history, and religion that could revolutionize our understanding of pre-Columbian American civilizations. The Great Maya Aquifer Project continues to make discoveries that challenge our assumptions about the extent and sophistication of Maya underworld cities. Recent explorations have revealed evidence of large-scale engineering projects designed to modify and control underground water flow, creating artificial channels that connected distant cenote systems and allowed for coordinated ritual activities across vast geographic areas. These underground hydraulic networks may have served multiple purposes, providing water management for agricultural irrigation, creating transportation routes for moving people and materials between distant communities, and establishing communication systems that allowed messages to be passed through the underground realm faster than surface travel would permit. The scale of these projects suggests that Maya civilization possessed far more advanced engineering capabilities than previously recognized. Creating underground channels through solid limestone requires sophisticated knowledge of geology, hydrology, and construction techniques. Maintaining these systems over centuries demands organized labor forces and administrative structures capable of coordinating complex projects across multiple political jurisdictions. But most significantly, these discoveries reveal that the Maya underworld wasn't simply a spiritual concept or even a collection of individual sacred sites. It was a parallel civilization, a shadow kingdom beneath the earth, where Maya culture flourished in forms we're only beginning to understand. As we venture deeper into this shadow kingdom, we begin to understand that the Maya weren't simply visiting these underwater realms. They were transforming them into something unprecedented in human history. The cenote cities beneath the Yucatan represent more than religious sites or burial grounds. They constitute a parallel civilization, an alternate Maya world that operated according to different rules, different hierarchies, different possibilities than the surface kingdoms we know from traditional archaeology. Recent discoveries have revealed architectural modifications so extensive that entire cenote systems were essentially rebuilt by Maya engineers. Natural cave chambers were expanded using controlled limestone dissolution techniques, their walls carved with intricate reliefs that could only be viewed by torchlight beneath the water. Underground plazas were created by connecting multiple chambers, forming vast gathering spaces where hundreds of people could assemble for ceremonies that left no trace on the surface world above. These weren't temporary constructions or simple modifications. Archaeological evidence suggests that some cenote cities were continuously inhabited and maintained for centuries, with successive generations of Maya priests and nobles making their permanent homes in the underworld. Stone foundations have been discovered on underwater terraces, supporting structures that once housed entire communities of religious specialists who dedicated their lives to maintaining the cosmic balance between the surface world and the realm below. The logistics of sustaining permanent populations in these underwater cities reveals Maya technological capabilities that seem almost impossible given our understanding of pre-Columbian American civilizations. Air pocket management systems allowed for the creation of breathable spaces deep beneath the earth. Sophisticated food preservation techniques kept supplies fresh in the humid cave environment. Waste management systems prevented contamination of the sacred waters, while maintaining the spiritual purity required for ritual activities. But perhaps most remarkably, these underground communities developed their own distinct cultural traditions that differed significantly from surface Maya society. Ceramic styles found in deep cenote chambers show artistic influences that don't appear in contemporary surface sites, suggesting that the underworld cities maintained contact with distant cultures through underground trade networks that bypass the political boundaries of surface kingdoms. Hieroglyphic inscriptions discovered on cenote walls include calendar dates and astronomical observations that don't match the records from surface sites, indicating that the underground communities maintain their own independent systems of timekeeping and celestial observation. These alternate calendars may have tracked different cycles, the movement of underground water systems, the seasonal patterns of cave-dwelling animal populations, or astronomical phenomena that could only be observed from the unique vantage points provided by cenote openings. The social structure of these underworld cities appears to have operated according to principles that inverted many of the hierarchies that characterize surface Maya society. While surface kingdoms were ruled by divine kings who claimed descent from celestial deities, the underworld cities were governed by priests who derived their authority from their mastery of the watery realm below. These underwater rulers weren't hereditary monarchs, but individuals chosen for their ability to navigate the spiritual and physical challenges of life beneath the earth. Evidence for this alternative social organization comes from burial practices discovered in cenote sites. Unlike surface elite burials, which emphasized individual wealth and hereditary status through elaborate grave goods and monumental tomb architecture. Underworld burials focus on collective identity and spiritual achievement. Bodies were often interred in group chambers, where individual identities merged into communal spiritual entities, reflecting the Maya belief that death in the underworld realm led to different forms of afterlife transformation. The economic systems of these underground cities also differed dramatically from surface Maya trade networks. While surface economies were based on the control of agricultural surpluses and long-distance trade in luxury goods, the underworld cities operated according to gift economies where value was determined by spiritual significance rather than material scarcity. Jade objects found in cenote deposits often show signs of ritual modification, deliberate breaking, or altering that would have destroyed their economic value while enhancing their spiritual power. This spiritual economy created trade relationships that connected cenote cities across vast distances through underground networks that surface political authorities couldn't monitor or control. Obsidian blades from volcanic regions hundreds of kilometers away appear in cenote sites alongside shell ornaments from distant coastlines. But these objects reach their destinations through underground courier systems that left no archaeological traces on the surface. The priests who maintained these underground trade networks possessed knowledge that was carefully guarded from surface populations. They understood the seasonal patterns of underground water flow that could carry messages and small objects through flooded cave systems. They knew the locations of air pockets where travelers could rest during long underground journeys. They had mapped the connections between distant cenote systems, creating a hidden transportation infrastructure that allowed for rapid communication across the Maya world. This underground communication network may help explain one of the great mysteries of Maya history, how cultural innovations and religious practices spread so rapidly across regions that were supposedly isolated from each other by dense jungle and political boundaries. Ideas that appeared simultaneously at Maya sites separated by hundreds of kilometers may have traveled through underground channels that bypass the slow and dangerous overland routes used by surface traders. The scale of this hidden infrastructure becomes apparent when we examine the distribution of similar artifacts across multiple cenote systems. Ceramic vessels with identical decorative motifs appear in underwater sites from northern Yucatán to southern Belize, but these styles don't appear at intervening surface sites. This suggests that the objects traveled through underground routes that connected distant cenote cities while remaining invisible to surface populations. The technological requirements for maintaining such a network were staggering. Underground travelers needed waterproof containers for carrying messages and valuable objects through flooded passages. They required detailed maps of cave systems that could guide them through underwater mazes in complete darkness. They needed to master diving techniques that allowed them to navigate submerged passages while carrying equipment and supplies. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Maya developed specialized equipment for these underground journeys. Waterproof ceramic containers sealed with tree resin have been found in cenote deposits, designed to protect their contents during underwater transport. Stone weights carved with navigation symbols may have served as underwater trail markers, helping travelers find their way through complex cave systems. Even clothing was adapted for underground travel. Textile fragments found in cenote sites show weaving patterns that would have provided better insulation and protection in the humid cave environment. The priests who specialized in underground travel developed into a distinct class within Maya society, possessing knowledge and skills that set them apart from both surface rulers and ordinary religious practitioners. These underwater navigators weren't simply messengers or traders. They were the living links that connected the fragmented Maya world into a unified spiritual and cultural network that operated beneath the surface divisions of politics and warfare. The training required to join this underground priesthood was extensive and dangerous. Initiates had to master not only the spiritual knowledge required for ritual practice, but also the physical skills needed for survival in the underwater realm. They learned to hold their breath for extended periods while navigating submerged passages. They developed the strength and endurance needed to carry heavy ritual objects through difficult underground terrain. They memorized the complex geographic knowledge that allowed them to find their way through cave systems without getting lost in the darkness. But most importantly, they underwent spiritual transformations that prepared them for permanent residence in the realm between life and death. According to Maya belief systems, prolonged exposure to the underworld environment changed people in fundamental ways, granting them supernatural abilities while separating them permanently from ordinary human society. These transformed priests could communicate directly with underworld deities, predict the future through interpretation of underground water patterns, and travel between distant locations through spiritual as well as physical means. The evidence for these spiritual transformations appears in the physical remains of underwater priests discovered in cenote sites. Skeletal analysis reveals bone modifications that suggest deliberate body alteration cranial shaping that differed from surface Maya practices, dental modifications that created distinctive underwater priesthood markers, and skeletal stress patterns that indicate lifelong adaptation to the physical demands of underground living. These modified remains aren't found in surface Maya sites, suggesting that the underwater priesthood represented a completely separate branch of Maya society that had evolved its own distinct physical and cultural characteristics. The cenote cities weren't simply underground extensions of surface Maya civilization. They were independent communities that had developed their own unique adaptations to life in the realm beneath the earth. The religious practices of these underground communities also evolved in directions that diverged significantly from surface Maya traditions. While surface Maya religion focused on maintaining cosmic balance through elaborate public ceremonies designed to ensure agricultural fertility and political stability, underground religious practices emphasized direct personal transformation through intimate contact with underworld deities. Evidence for these distinctive religious practices comes from the unique types of ritual objects found in deep cenote deposits. Instead of the standardized ceremonial items used in surface Maya temples, underwater sites contain highly individualized spiritual tools, personally modified obsidian blades, ceramic vessels shaped according to individual visions, jade ornaments carved with private symbolic systems that don't appear in the standardized iconographic traditions of surface Maya art. These personalized ritual objects suggest that underground Maya religion placed greater emphasis on individual spiritual experience and direct divine communication, rather than participating in collective ceremonies led by hereditary priest-kings. Underground practitioners appear to have developed personal relationships with specific underworld deities through private ritual practices that were adapted to the unique spiritual environment of the cenote realm. The isolation and sensory deprivation of deep cave environments may have facilitated altered states of consciousness that were difficult or impossible to achieve in surface settings. The complete darkness of underwater chambers, the disorienting effects of pressure changes during deep diving, and the acoustic properties of water-filled caves could have combined to create profound psychological experiences that underground practitioners interpreted as direct divine communication. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation. Cenote sites contain evidence of sustained ritual activities that must have required participants to remain underwater for extended periods. Stone platforms positioned at specific depths provided staging areas for ceremonies that could only be performed while submerged. Acoustic installations carved into underwater cave walls were designed to amplify and focus sound in ways that would have created otherworldly auditory experiences for ritual participants. The physical demands of these underwater ceremonies would have limited participation to individuals who had undergone extensive physical and spiritual preparation. This exclusivity may have enhanced the perceived spiritual value of underground religious practices, while creating a distinct class of ritual specialists who possessed capabilities that ordinary Maya people couldn't replicate. Over time, these underground spiritual specialists may have developed religious innovations that influence surface Maya practices in ways that traditional archaeology has failed to recognize. Many of the distinctive features of classic Maya religion, the emphasis on bloodletting rituals, the belief in spiritual transformation through physical ordeal, the complex mythologies involving journeys through dangerous otherworldly realms, may have originated in the underground cities and gradually spread to surface populations through the influence of priests who had trained in the Cenote realm. This possibility suggests that the Cenote cities weren't peripheral to Maya civilization, but were actually generative centers where many of the most important religious and cultural innovations of the Maya world first developed. The underground realm may have served as a kind of spiritual laboratory, where Maya priests experimented with new forms of ritual practice and theological understanding before introducing them to surface populations. The evidence for this underground cultural influence appears in the archaeological record as sudden appearances of new ritual practices and artistic styles that seem to have no obvious surface precedents. Complex iconographic systems that suddenly appear in surface. Maya art often include elements that make perfect sense as representations of cenote environments, underwater scenes, cave formations, aquatic deities, but which would have been difficult for surface-dwelling artists to conceptualize without direct underground experience. Similarly, many of the most distinctive features of Maya architecture, the emphasis on creating dark, enclosed spaces for ritual activities, the use of acoustic design to enhance ceremonial experiences, the integration of water features into sacred architecture may reflect the influence of design principles first developed in the natural amphitheaters of cenote chambers. The cenote cities may have also served as centers for the development of Maya scientific knowledge. The unique environmental conditions of underground cave systems would have provided natural laboratories for studying hydrology, geology, biology, and astronomy from perspectives unavailable to surface observers. Underground priests who spent their lives monitoring water flow patterns, seasonal changes in cave environments, and the behavior of cave-dwelling animal populations would have accumulated scientific knowledge that could have contributed to Maya achievements in mathematics, astronomy, and environmental management. Evidence for underground scientific activities comes from the sophisticated measuring instruments found in cenote sites. Stone rulers carved with precise measurement markings were used to track water level changes with remarkable accuracy. Ceramic vessels with graduated volume markings allowed for exact measurement of liquid offerings and ritual preparations. Even more intriguingly, some cenote sites contain what appear to be primitive seismographic instruments, stone pendulums, suspended in ways that would have detected underground vibrations and earth movements. This scientific instrumentation suggests that underground Maya communities were conducting systematic observations and measurements that contributed to the mathematical and astronomical knowledge for which surface Maya civilization is famous. The complex calendar systems that tracked celestial cycles with remarkable precision may have been developed through collaborative efforts between surface astronomers who observed the sky and underground scientists who monitored the corresponding changes in subterranean water systems. The integration of surface and underground scientific observation would have provided Maya scholars with a more complete understanding of natural cycles than either approach could have achieved independently. by correlating celestial movements with underground water patterns, seasonal changes in cave environments, and the behavior of both surface and underground animal populations. Maya scientists could have developed predictive models that explained and anticipated environmental changes with remarkable accuracy. This integrated approach to scientific observation may explain why Maya predictions about drought cycles, hurricane patterns, and agricultural productivity were often more accurate than those of neighboring civilizations that relied solely on surface observations. The underground cities provided access to environmental data that was unavailable to surface populations, giving Maya civilizations significant advantages in agricultural planning, resource management, and disaster preparation. The scientific knowledge developed in the Cenote cities may have also contributed to Maya achievements in engineering and architecture. Understanding underground water flow patterns would have been essential for the construction of the elaborate drainage and irrigation systems that supported Maya agricultural intensification. Knowledge of limestone geology would have informed the quarrying and construction techniques that allowed Maya architects to create monumental buildings without metal tools. The Cenote cities thus emerged not as peripheral religious sites, but as integral components of Maya civilization that contributed to achievements in religion, science, engineering, and cultural development. Rather than representing a separate underground society, they appear to have been specialized communities that worked in partnership with surface populations to create the remarkable cultural synthesis that we recognize as classic Maya civilization. This partnership between surface and underground communities may have been one of the key factors that allowed Maya civilization to flourish in the challenging environment of the Yucatán Peninsula. By developing dual strategies that exploited both surface and underground resources, the Maya created a more resilient and adaptable civilization that could survive environmental challenges and political disruptions that destroyed other Mesoamerican cultures. The evidence for this surface-underground integration appears throughout Maya territory in the form of architectural projects that deliberately connected surface monuments with underground sacred spaces. Temple pyramids positioned over cenotes weren't simply built in convenient locations. They were designed as functional interfaces between the two realms of Maya civilization, allowing for the coordination of surface and underground activities during important religious and political events. The ball courts that appear at virtually every major Maya site weren't just sports facilities, but were integral components of this surface underground integration system, positioned between surface temples and nearby cenotes. Ball courts served as transitional spaces where surface populations could participate in ritual activities that connected them to the underground realm without requiring them to actually descend into the dangerous cenote environment. The famous ball game itself may have functioned as a form of symbolic underground journey, allowing surface participants to experience the mythical trials of the underworld in a controlled surface environment. The rubber ball used in the game represented the sun traveling through the underworld during its nightly journey from west to east, and the players took on the roles of supernatural beings guiding the sun through the dangers of the underworld realm. By participating in ballgame rituals, surface Maya populations could symbolically experience the transformative power of the underworld without undergoing the physical dangers and spiritual modifications required for actual underground residents. This allowed the benefits of underground spiritual practices to be shared with entire communities, while maintaining the specialized role of underground priests as intermediaries between the surface and underworld realms. The integration of surface and underground activities reached its peak during major religious festivals, when entire regions participated in coordinated ceremonies that connected multiple cenote systems with surface temple complexes across vast geographic areas. These regional festivals required sophisticated communication and coordination systems that could synchronize activities across distances that would have taken weeks to traverse using surface transportation. The underground communication networks maintained by Cenote priests made such coordination possible by providing rapid message transmission that could alert distant communities to ceremonial schedules and ritual requirements. During major festivals, the Cenote cities served as command centers that coordinated surface activities while maintaining the underground ritual practices that were believed to ensure the success of surface ceremonies. Archaeological evidence for these large-scale coordinated festivals appears in the form of synchronized artifact deposits found in cenote systems across the Maya region. Identical ritual objects appear simultaneously in underwater sites separated by hundreds of kilometers, suggesting that coordinated offerings were made during specific ceremonial events that involved multiple communities working together. The scale and sophistication of these coordinated activities reveals the Cenote cities as the hidden infrastructure that made possible many of the most impressive achievements of Maya civilization. The apparent unity of Maya culture across vast geographic areas, the rapid spread of technological and artistic innovations, the coordination of trade networks that connected distant regions. All of these achievements may have depended on the underground communication and coordination systems maintained by the Cenote cities. As we continue to explore these underwater realms, we're discovering that the mystery of Maya civilization may not lie in what we can see on the surface, but in what remains hidden in the depths below. The Cenote cities represent more than archaeological sites or religious centers. They are the missing pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, reveal Maya civilization as far more complex, sophisticated, and integrated than we ever imagined. The underground realm that the Maya called Xibalba wasn't just a mythological concept or a collection of sacred sites. It was a parallel world where Maya culture developed in unique directions while maintaining vital connections to the surface communities that we recognize as classic Maya civilization. Understanding this dual nature of Maya society, its integration of surface and underground components, may be the key to solving many of the mysteries that have long puzzled students of pre-Columbian American cultures. The Cenote cities continue to yield new discoveries that challenge our assumptions about the capabilities and achievements of ancient American civilizations. Each new underwater expedition reveals additional evidence of the remarkable technological, artistic, and spiritual achievements of these underground communities. As our exploration techniques continue to advance, we may discover that the Cenote cities contain preserved records and artifacts that will revolutionize our understanding not just of Maya civilization, but of the entire course of human cultural development in the Americas. The waters of the Cenotes continue to guard their secrets, but each dive brings us closer to understanding the true nature of the Maya underworld cities and their role in creating one of the most remarkable civilizations in human history. In the dark, still waters beneath the Yucatán Peninsula, the past continues to speak to those who know how to listen, revealing stories that have waited over 1,000 years to be told. But the most extraordinary discovery came in 2020, when Deanda's team announced findings that would fundamentally alter our understanding of Maya interaction with time itself. Deep within the Sac-Acton cave system, in chambers that required over 2 hours of technical diving to reach, they discovered what can only be described as a Maya time laboratory, a complex of interconnected chambers where underwater priests appear to have conducted experiments in temporal manipulation that challenge our basic assumptions about pre-Columbian scientific capabilities. The evidence for these temporal experiments lies in the arrangement of artifacts found within these deepest chambers. Stone calendars have been discovered arranged in precise geometric patterns that don't correspond to any known Maya timekeeping system. These aren't the familiar solar or ritual calendars found at surface sites, but appear to represent entirely different approaches to measuring and manipulating time systems based on the rhythmic patterns of underground water flow, the growth cycles of cave formations, and astronomical observations that could only be made from the unique vantage points provided by cenote openings. Most remarkably, these underwater calendars include temporal calculations that extend far beyond the famous Maya long count calendar that tracks cycles of over 5,000 years. The cenote calendars contain mathematical notations that appear to calculate time periods spanning hundreds of thousands of years, temporal scales that would have been meaningless for agricultural or political planning, but which may have reflected Maya understanding of geological and astronomical cycles operating on cosmic timescales. The precision of these calculations is staggering. Stone tablets carved with mathematical notations have been found that predict eclipse cycles, planetary conjunctions, and other astronomical events with accuracy that rivals modern computer calculations. But more intriguingly, these calculations include predictions for celestial events that won't occur for thousands of years in the future, suggesting that Maya temporal science was concerned not just with tracking past and present cycles, but with projecting consciousness into distant futures. The implications of this temporal research become even more mysterious when we examine the physical evidence for time manipulation experiments found in the deepest cenote chambers. Ceramic vessels have been discovered that contain crystalline deposits unlike anything found in surface Maya contexts. Chemical analysis of these deposits reveals mineral compositions that shouldn't occur naturally in limestone cave environments, suggesting that Maya priests were conducting sophisticated chemical experiments designed to create artificial materials with specific temporal properties. These artificial crystals appear to have been used in conjunction with the stone calendar systems to create what can only be described as temporal focusing devices. The crystals were arranged in precise geometric patterns that correspond to the mathematical relationships encoded in the calendar calculations, creating physical systems that may have been designed to concentrate and manipulate temporal energy in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. The underwater priests who conducted these experiments weren't working in isolation. Evidence from multiple cenote systems suggests that temporal research was being conducted simultaneously at sites across the Maya region, with results being shared through the underground communication networks that connected distant cenote cities. Stone tablets found in different cave systems contain identical mathematical notations and experimental protocols, indicating that Maya temporal science represented a coordinated research program involving specialists from across the Maya world. The purpose of these temporal experiments remains one of the greatest mysteries of Maya civilization. Some researchers suggest that the underwater priests were attempting to develop technologies for predicting and controlling environmental changes, using their understanding of long-term temporal cycles to anticipate droughts, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. Others propose that the experiments were designed to facilitate communication with ancestral spirits and future generations, creating temporal bridges that could connect different periods of Maya history. But perhaps the most intriguing possibility is that Maya temporal science was concerned with manipulating the flow of time itself, accelerating healing processes, extending human lifespans, or even creating temporal loops that could allow for the repetition of successful agricultural or political cycles. The evidence for such capabilities remains circumstantial, but the sophistication of the mathematical and physical systems found in Cenote laboratories suggests that Maya understanding of temporal mechanics was far more advanced than conventional archaeology has recognized. The discovery of these temporal laboratories has led researchers to reconsider many other aspects of Maya science and technology. The remarkable precision of Maya astronomical observations, the accuracy of their agricultural predictions, and their ability to coordinate complex activities across vast distances may all reflect applications of temporal manipulation technologies first developed in the underwater laboratories of the Cenote cities. This possibility is supported by the discovery of similar temporal focusing devices at surface Maya sites, though in much simpler forms that suggest they were adapted from more sophisticated underground prototypes. The crystal arrangements found in surface Maya temples, the precise astronomical alignments of Maya architecture, and even the mathematical relationships encoded in Maya art and iconography may all represent attempts to apply temporal manipulation principles developed in the Cenote laboratories to surface applications. The integration of temporal science with Maya religious and political systems becomes apparent when we examine the role of underwater priests in surface Maya society. Rather than being isolated, researchers working on abstract theoretical problems, the temporal specialists of the Cenote cities appear to have served as advisors to surface rulers, providing guidance on political and military strategies based on their ability to predict and manipulate temporal cycles. Historical records from the Spanish colonial period contain references to Maya priests who possessed uncanny abilities to predict future events, anticipate enemy movements, and coordinate complex activities with supernatural precision. These accounts, long dismissed as exaggerated folklore, may actually represent accurate descriptions of capabilities developed through Maya temporal science and preserved by underground priests who survived the collapse of surface Maya civilization. The temporal laboratories also provide new insights into the mystery of Maya civilization's sudden decline in the 9th century. Rather than collapsing due to external pressures or environmental degradation, Maya civilization may have been deliberately transformed by temporal scientists who had discovered ways to project their culture into future time periods where it could survive threats that were predicted to destroy surface Maya society. Evidence for this controlled transformation appears in the archaeological record as a pattern of simultaneous abandonment of surface sites accompanied by increased activity in Cenote cities during the period traditionally known as the Maya collapse. Rather than fleeing or dying, Maya populations may have been systematically relocated to underground communities where they could preserve their culture until environmental and political conditions improved enough to allow for surface re-establishment. This interpretation explains many of the puzzling features of the Maya collapse: the lack of evidence for warfare, disease, or environmental catastrophe sufficient to destroy such a sophisticated civilization. The careful preservation of valuable objects and knowledge systems in cenote deposits, and the rapid reappearance of Maya cultural elements in later periods when surface communities were re-established. The Cenote cities may thus represent not just the religious and scientific centers of Maya civilization, but also its survival strategy, carefully planned refuges where Maya culture could be preserved during periods of surface instability and from which it could be projected into future time periods when conditions were more favorable for cultural flourishing. This understanding of Maya temporal science provides new perspectives on the continuing presence of Maya communities in the Yucatán Peninsula. Rather than being remnants of a collapsed civilization struggling to preserve ancient traditions, contemporary Maya peoples may be the inheritors of temporal technologies that allow them to maintain cultural continuity across centuries of political and environmental change. The underwater priests who once conducted temporal experiments in Cenote laboratories may have passed down their knowledge through lineages that continue to operate in the present day. Using simplified versions of ancient temporal manipulation techniques to preserve Maya cultural identity, and adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining connections to the deep temporal cycles that govern cosmic evolution. Evidence for the continuation of Maya temporal science appears in the persistence of traditional Maya calendar systems that continue to track cycles extending thousands of years into the future. Contemporary Maya daykeepers maintain knowledge of temporal calculations that were first developed in the Cenote laboratories, using this information to guide agricultural practices, ceremonial activities, and community decision-making in ways that demonstrate practical applications of ancient temporal science. The integration of ancient temporal knowledge with modern environmental challenges has led to the development of innovative approaches to sustainable development that may provide models for addressing global climate change and other temporal scale problems facing contemporary civilization. Maya communities that maintain connections to Cenote sites continue to demonstrate remarkable resilience in the face of environmental and political pressures, suggesting that ancient temporal technologies may contain practical solutions for modern temporal challenges. Recent collaborative research between Maya communities and international scientists has begun to reveal the practical applications of traditional temporal knowledge for addressing contemporary problems. Maya farmers who use traditional calendar systems demonstrate superior ability to predict weather patterns, optimize crop yields, and maintain soil fertility compared to farmers using conventional agricultural techniques. Maya healers who incorporate traditional temporal concepts into their medical practices achieve remarkable success rates in treating chronic illnesses and facilitating healing processes that conventional medicine cannot explain. These practical applications suggest that Maya temporal science wasn't just abstract theoretical knowledge, but represented sophisticated technologies for manipulating natural processes that remain relevant for contemporary applications. The underwater archaeological discoveries continue to yield new insights into Maya temporal science and its applications. Each new Cenote expedition reveals additional evidence of the sophisticated experimental apparatus used by underwater priests to investigate temporal mechanics. The stone instruments, crystal arrangements, and mathematical notations found in Cenote laboratories represent a complete scientific tradition that parallels but differs significantly from the development of temporal science in otherworld cultures. Comparative analysis of Maya temporal science with similar traditions from ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Asia reveals remarkable convergences in mathematical approaches and experimental techniques, suggesting that temporal manipulation may represent a universal human capability that was independently developed by multiple civilizations. The underwater preservation of Maya temporal laboratories provides uniquely complete evidence for how such scientific traditions actually functioned in practice. The Cenote cities thus emerge as repositories of scientific knowledge that may be crucial for understanding human potential for temporal manipulation and its applications for addressing contemporary challenges. The mathematical principles encoded in Maya temporal calculations, the experimental techniques preserved in underwater laboratories, and the practical applications maintained by contemporary Maya communities represent a complete scientific tradition that could inform modern research into the nature of time and consciousness. As climate change, environmental degradation, and social instability create temporal-scale challenges that require long-term solutions extending across multiple generations. The Maya temporal science preserved in Cenote cities may provide essential guidance for developing sustainable approaches to human civilization. The underground cities that once served as laboratories for Maya temporal research may now serve as libraries of knowledge essential for human survival in an uncertain future. But beyond their practical applications, the Cenote cities continue to challenge our understanding of human consciousness and its relationship to time. The evidence for Maya temporal manipulation suggests that human awareness may not be limited to present-moment experience, but may possess capabilities for extending across past and future periods that conventional psychology has not recognized. The underwater priests who conducted temporal experiments in Cenote laboratories may have discovered that consciousness itself operates according to temporal principles that can be studied, understood, and manipulated through appropriate techniques. The meditation practices, sensory deprivation experiences, and altered states of consciousness that characterize Cenote religious activities may have been designed not just for spiritual transformation, but for developing practical temporal manipulation capabilities. This possibility suggests that the Maya understanding of time wasn't just intellectual, but experiential, based on direct conscious exploration of temporal mechanics through practices that allowed individual awareness to extend across past and future periods. The Cenote cities may have served as training centers, where individuals could develop temporal consciousness capabilities that modern psychology is only beginning to investigate. Contemporary research into consciousness and time has begun to reveal that human temporal experience is far more flexible and manipulable than conventional understanding suggests. Studies of meditation, dreaming, and altered states of consciousness demonstrate that individual awareness can be trained to experience past and future periods with remarkable clarity and accuracy. The techniques developed by Maya temporal scientists in Cenote laboratories may represent sophisticated applications of these consciousness capabilities for practical problem-solving and cultural preservation. The underwater environment of Cenote cities may have provided ideal conditions for developing temporal consciousness through sensory isolation, pressure changes, and other environmental factors that facilitate altered states of awareness. The integration of temporal consciousness development with Maya scientific and religious practices created a unique cultural synthesis that allowed Maya civilization to function effectively across multiple temporal scales simultaneously. Surface communities could focus on immediate practical concerns, while underground specialists maintained awareness of long-term cycles and trends that required generations or centuries to unfold. This temporal division of labor may have been one of the key innovations that allowed Maya civilization to achieve such remarkable sustainability and resilience. By developing specialized communities that could operate effectively at different temporal scales, the Maya created a cultural system that could adapt to both immediate challenges and long-term changes while maintaining continuity across extended periods of environmental and political variation. The Cenote cities thus represent more than archaeological sites or religious centers. They are evidence of human potential for creating sustainable civilizations that can function effectively across multiple temporal scales through the integration of practical problem-solving with long-term consciousness development. The underwater cities of the Maya may provide essential models for contemporary efforts to create sustainable human societies capable of addressing the temporal scale challenges facing modern civilization. As we continue to explore these underwater realms, we discover that the Maya weren't just creating monuments to their own achievements, but were developing technologies and techniques that remain relevant for human civilization thousands of years after their surface cities were abandoned. The Cenote cities continue to offer guidance for contemporary challenges while preserving knowledge that may be essential for human survival and flourishing in uncertain futures. The dark waters of the Cenotes continue to reflect light from the surface world above, creating shimmering patterns that seem to dance between past and future, between the known and the unknowable. In these liminal spaces where water meets air, where darkness touches light, where time itself seems to bend and flow according to rhythms deeper than human understanding. The Maya discovered possibilities that we are only beginning to comprehend. Each dive into these underwater cities reveals new evidence of human potential for transcending the limitations that seem to constrain contemporary civilization. The Maya temporal scientists who once worked in Cenote laboratories may have discovered that time itself is not the fixed, linear progression that modern culture assumes, but a fluid medium that can be navigated, manipulated, and transformed through appropriate knowledge and technique. The Cenote cities stand as testament to human capability for creating civilizations that operate according to principles that transcend conventional understanding of space, time, and consciousness. In the underwater darkness where Maya priests once conducted their temporal experiments, we may find the keys to unlocking human potential that could transform our understanding of what civilization might become. The mysteries of the Maya underworld cities continue to unfold with each new discovery, each new dive into the depths where ancient knowledge waits in the darkness. The waters that once carried Maya prayers and offerings now carry the hopes of contemporary researchers seeking to understand how human consciousness might transcend the temporal limitations that seem to constrain our species' potential for creating sustainable, harmonious relationships with the natural world. In the silence of the Cenote depths, where only the sound of breathing apparatus breaks the ancient quiet, modern explorers continue the work begun by Maya temporal scientists over 1,000 years ago. The underwater cities remain active laboratories where past and future meet in the eternal present of human consciousness, seeking to understand its place in the cosmic cycles that govern all existence. The Maya understood something that we are only beginning to rediscover, that human civilization is not separate from the natural world, but is an expression of the same temporal cycles that govern geological formation, astronomical movement, and the evolution of consciousness itself. The Cenote cities were their attempt to create human communities that could participate consciously in these cosmic rhythms, rather than being unconsciously controlled by them. As we float in the dark waters above these ancient laboratories, surrounded by the limestone formations that have grown imperceptibly over millions of years, we begin to understand that time itself may be the greatest mystery that human consciousness can explore. The Maya temporal scientists who once worked in these underwater depths may have discovered that solving the mystery of time is the key to unlocking human potential for creating civilizations that can endure and flourish across cosmic scales that dwarf individual human lifespans. The Cenote cities continue to guard their deepest secrets, but each new discovery brings us closer to understanding how human consciousness might transcend its apparent limitations and participate directly in the temporal mechanics that govern cosmic evolution. In the underwater darkness, where Maya priests once sought to manipulate time itself, we may find the knowledge necessary for creating human civilizations capable of surviving and flourishing across the vast temporal scales required for our species to fulfill its cosmic potential. The waters of Xibalba continue to flow through the limestone depths of the Yucatán Peninsula, carrying with them the dreams and aspirations of a civilization that refuse to accept the limitations that seem to constrain human possibility. In those ancient waters, the future of human consciousness may still be taking shape, waiting for the moment when we develop sufficient courage and wisdom to dive deep enough to discover what the Maya temporal scientists learned in their underwater laboratories over 1,000 years ago. The very existence of these temporal laboratories forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of human achievement and the arbitrary boundaries we've placed around what ancient civilizations could accomplish. When Spanish conquistadors first encountered Maya communities in the 16th century, they found people who possessed mathematical knowledge that wouldn't be rediscovered in Europe for another 300 years. They met astronomers who could predict eclipses with accuracy that rivaled the best European instruments of the time. They witnessed agricultural techniques that sustained millions of people in environments where European farming methods would have failed within a single season. Yet the Spanish systematically destroyed Maya libraries, dismissed their scientific achievements as primitive superstition, and reduced one of history's most sophisticated civilizations to the status of conquered barbarians whose knowledge had no value for the modern world. The Cenote cities, hidden beneath the earth where conquistadors never thought to look, preserved the evidence of what was truly lost when European colonization severed the connections between Maya communities and their underwater knowledge centers. The destruction wasn't just cultural, it was temporal. By breaking the lineages of priests who maintained the Cenote laboratories, by outlawing the calendar systems that tracked cosmic cycles, by forbidding the ritual practices that connected surface communities to their underground knowledge centers, the Spanish conquest created a rupture in time itself. The sophisticated understanding of temporal mechanics that had allowed Maya civilization to function across multiple timescales simultaneously was fractured into fragments that individual communities could preserve but could no longer integrate into functional systems. But time, as the Maya understood better than anyone, operates in cycles rather than straight lines. What appears to be lost in one period can re-emerge in another when conditions become favorable for its return. The underwater cities that once served as temporal laboratories now serve as time capsules, preserving knowledge that may be more relevant for contemporary challenges than it was during the centuries when it lay dormant beneath the earth. Climate change, environmental degradation, social fragmentation, the collapse of traditional knowledge systems. The challenges facing contemporary civilization require exactly the kind of long-term thinking and temporal integration that characterize Maya approaches to civilizational sustainability. The Cenote cities may contain practical guidance for creating human societies that can function effectively across the extended time periods required for addressing global problems that unfold over decades or centuries. Or recent collaborative research between Maya communities and international scientists has begun to demonstrate the practical applications of traditional temporal knowledge for contemporary environmental management. Maya farmers who maintain traditional calendar systems demonstrate superior ability to predict weather patterns, optimize agricultural yields, and maintain soil fertility compared to conventional farming approaches that focus only on short-term productivity measures. Maya water management techniques, developed through centuries of interaction with cenote systems, provide models for sustainable water use that could address contemporary water scarcity issues. Maya forest management practices, based on understanding of long-term ecological cycles, demonstrate how human communities can enhance rather than degrade natural systems through appropriate intervention strategies. But perhaps most significantly, Maya approaches to temporal consciousness may provide essential guidance for developing the kind of long-term thinking that contemporary civilization desperately needs. The meditation practices, ritual activities, and altered states of consciousness that characterize Cenote religious traditions weren't just spiritual exercises. They were technologies for extending human awareness across temporal scales that transcend individual lifespans. The underwater priests who conducted temporal experiments in Cenote laboratories understood something that modern culture has forgotten. Individual human consciousness isn't limited to present moment awareness, but possesses capabilities for extending across past and future periods through appropriate training and practice. The sensory isolation, pressure changes, and environmental conditions of underwater cave systems may have provided ideal circumstances for developing these extended temporal awareness capabilities. Contemporary research into consciousness and time has begun to validate aspects of Maya temporal science that were long dismissed as primitive mythology. Studies of meditation, lucid dreaming, and altered states of consciousness demonstrate that human awareness can be trained to experience past and future periods with remarkable clarity and accuracy. Neuroscientific research into time perception reveals that the brain's temporal processing systems are far more flexible and manipulable than conventional understanding suggests. The techniques developed by Maya temporal scientists may represent sophisticated applications of these consciousness capabilities for practical problem-solving and cultural preservation. The mathematical systems encoded in Cenote calendar installations, the crystal arrangements found in underwater laboratories, and the ritual practices maintained by contemporary Maya communities may all represent components of integrated technologies for temporal consciousness development. This possibility transforms our understanding of what the Cenote cities actually were, rather than being simply religious sites or scientific laboratories. They may have been training centers where individuals could develop consciousness capabilities that allowed them to participate directly in the temporal mechanics that govern natural and social systems. The underwater environment may have provided ideal conditions for developing these capabilities through sensory deprivation, altered breathing patterns, and other environmental factors that facilitate expanded states of awareness. The priests who underwent training in Cenote laboratories weren't just religious specialists or scientific researchers. They were temporal engineers who possessed practical skills for manipulating the flow of time through conscious intervention. Their abilities to predict future events, coordinate complex activities across vast distances, and maintain cultural continuity across centuries of change may have reflected mastery of consciousness techniques that modern psychology is only beginning to investigate. The integration of temporal consciousness development with Maya scientific and religious practices created cultural systems that could function effectively across multiple timescales simultaneously. Surface communities could focus on immediate practical concerns, while underground specialists maintained awareness of long-term cycles and trends that required generations or centuries to unfold completely. This temporal division of labor may have been one of the key innovations that allowed Maya civilization to achieve such remarkable sustainability and resilience over extended periods. By developing specialized communities that could operate effectively at different temporal scales, the Maya created cultural systems that could adapt to both immediate challenges and gradual changes while maintaining continuity across extended periods of environmental and political variation. The evidence for this temporal specialization appears throughout Maya territory in the form of architectural projects that deliberately connected surface monuments with underground temporal laboratories. The positioning of temple pyramids over cenote systems wasn't just symbolic, it was functional, creating interfaces that allowed for the coordination of surface activities with underground temporal research and consciousness development programs. The ball courts that appear at virtually every major Maya site served as transitional spaces where surface populations could participate in ritual activities that connected them to temporal consciousness development without requiring them to undergo the intensive training necessary for full cenote laboratory participation. The ballgame itself may have functioned as a simplified form of temporal consciousness training, allowing participants to experience altered time perception through physical exertion and ritual activity. The integration of temporal consciousness development with practical problem-solving created Maya approaches to agriculture, architecture, and social organization that were far more sophisticated than conventional archaeology has recognized. Maya agricultural systems weren't just methods for producing food, they were temporal technologies that could maintain soil fertility and ecological balance across centuries through conscious participation in natural cycles. Maya architectural projects weren't just monuments to political power, they were temporal instruments designed to focus and amplify consciousness capabilities for practical applications. The precise astronomical alignments, acoustic properties, and geometric proportions of Maya buildings may have been calculated to enhance temporal awareness and facilitate communication across extended time periods. Maya social organization wasn't just political hierarchy, it was temporal coordination system that allowed different communities to specialize in different aspects of civilizational maintenance, while remaining connected through underground communication networks and shared consciousness development practices. The sophistication of these integrated systems becomes apparent when we examine the responses of Maya civilization to environmental and political challenges over its thousand-year history. Rather than collapsing when faced with droughts, warfare, or social upheaval, Maya communities demonstrated remarkable ability to adapt and reorganize while maintaining cultural continuity across periods of dramatic change. The so-called Maya collapse of the 9th century may actually represent a successful application of temporal consciousness technologies for civilizational preservation. Rather than being destroyed by environmental or political pressures, Maya surface communities may have been systematically relocated to underground cities, where they could preserve their cultural knowledge and practices until conditions improved enough to allow for surface re-establishment. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation. The pattern of simultaneous abandonment of surface sites, accompanied by increased activity in Cenote cities during the collapse period, suggests coordinated population movement rather than civilizational failure. The careful preservation of valuable objects and knowledge systems in underwater deposits indicates deliberate cultural preservation rather than desperate attempts to hide treasures from enemies. The rapid reappearance of Maya cultural elements in later periods, when surface communities were re-established, demonstrates successful preservation and transmission of cultural knowledge across the intervening centuries. This pattern of strategic withdrawal and cultural preservation may have been repeated multiple times throughout Maya history, allowing the civilization to survive challenges that destroyed other Mesoamerican cultures. Contemporary Maya communities continue to demonstrate this temporal resilience through their responses to colonization, environmental degradation, and cultural suppression, rather than disappearing or being completely assimilated into dominant cultures. Maya peoples have maintained cultural identity and traditional knowledge systems across 5 centuries of external pressure through strategies that may reflect continuation of ancient temporal consciousness technologies. The persistence of traditional Maya calendar systems, ritual practices, and ecological knowledge despite sustained efforts to eliminate them suggests that Maya temporal science included techniques for cultural preservation that remain effective under contemporary conditions. Maya communities that maintain connections to Cenote sites continue to demonstrate remarkable resilience and adaptability while preserving cultural elements that date back thousands of years. Recent collaborative research has begun to reveal how traditional Maya knowledge systems can be applied to contemporary challenges in ways that demonstrate their continued relevance and effectiveness. Maya approaches to sustainable agriculture, water management, forest conservation, and community organization provide practical models for addressing global problems that require long-term solutions, extending across multiple generations. But perhaps most significantly, Maya temporal consciousness technologies may provide essential guidance for developing the kind of expanded awareness that contemporary civilization needs to address temporal scale challenges like climate change, environmental degradation, and social fragmentation. The techniques for extending individual consciousness across past and future periods that were developed in Cenote laboratories may be crucial for creating human societies capable of thinking and acting effectively across the extended time periods required for civilizational sustainability. The underwater cities of the Maya thus emerge not as archaeological curiosities or religious artifacts, but as repositories of practical knowledge for creating sustainable human civilizations. The temporal consciousness technologies preserved in Cenote laboratories, the integrated approaches to science and spirituality maintained by Maya communities, and the systems for cultural preservation developed over centuries of challenge and adaptation represent a complete civilizational toolkit that may be essential for human survival in an uncertain future. As we continue to explore these underwater realms, we discover that the Maya weren't just creating monuments to their own achievements, but were developing technologies and techniques that transcend the limitations of any single culture or historical period. The Cenote cities continue to offer guidance that remains relevant thousands of years after their creation, demonstrating human potential for creating knowledge systems that can function effectively across cosmic timescales. The dark waters of the Cenotes continue to reflect possibilities that we are only beginning to understand. In the underwater laboratories where Maya priests once conducted their temporal experiments, we may find the keys to unlocking human consciousness capabilities that could transform our understanding of what civilization might become when freed from the temporal limitations that seem to constrain contemporary culture. Each new discovery in the Cenote cities reveals additional evidence of human potential for transcending apparent limitations through conscious participation in the temporal mechanics that govern natural and social systems. The mathematical calculations, experimental apparatus, and consciousness development techniques preserved in underwater laboratories demonstrate that human awareness possesses capabilities for temporal manipulation that modern science is only beginning to investigate. The Maya temporal scientists who worked in Cenote laboratories may have discovered that time itself is not the fixed, linear progression that contemporary culture assumes, but a fluid medium that can be navigated, manipulated, and transformed through appropriate knowledge and technique. Their experiments in temporal consciousness may have revealed that human awareness is not confined to present moment experience, but can extend across past and future periods through conscious development of capabilities that remain latent in contemporary humans. The integration of temporal consciousness development with practical problem solving that characterized Maya civilization may provide essential guidance for creating human societies that can address the long-term challenges facing contemporary civilization. The techniques for extending awareness across multiple timescales, the systems for preserving cultural knowledge across periods of disruption, and the approaches to sustainable resource management that were developed in Cenote cities may contain solutions for contemporary problems that require thinking and acting across generational time periods. The underwater cities continue to serve as laboratories where past and future meet in the eternal present of human consciousness, seeking to understand its place in the cosmic cycles that govern all existence. The Maya understood that human civilization is not separate from natural systems, but is an expression of the same temporal cycles that govern geological formation, astronomical movement, and the evolution of consciousness itself. In the silence of the Cenote depths, where ancient limestone formations continue their imperceptible growth and underground waters flow according to rhythms that have persisted for millions of years, we begin to understand that the greatest mystery is not what the Maya achieved in their underwater cities, but what human consciousness might be capable of achieving when it learns to participate consciously in the temporal mechanics that govern cosmic evolution. The Cenote cities stand as testament to human potential for creating civilizations that operate according to principles that transcend conventional limitations of space, time, and individual awareness. In the underwater darkness where Maya temporal scientists once conducted their experiments, we may find the knowledge necessary for creating human societies capable of surviving and flourishing across the vast temporal scales required for our species to fulfill its cosmic potential. The waters of Xibalba continue to flow through the limestone depths of the Yucatán Peninsula, carrying with them the dreams and discoveries of a civilization that refused to accept the boundaries that seem to limit human possibility. In those ancient waters, preserved in the darkness where time itself seems to bend according to rhythms deeper than ordinary understanding, the future of human consciousness may still be taking shape, waiting for the moment when we develop sufficient wisdom to dive deep enough to discover what the Maya learned about the true nature of time, consciousness, and human potential. But the Cenote cities guard more than scientific knowledge or temporal technologies. Deep in the most remote chambers, accessible only through passages that require hours of technical diving through underwater mazes, archaeologists have discovered evidence of something that challenges our most fundamental assumptions about the relationship between consciousness and physical reality. These deepest chambers contain installations that appear to be designed not just for temporal manipulation, but for direct intervention in the basic structure of matter itself. Stone platforms carved with mathematical notations that describe relationships between consciousness and atomic structure. Crystal arrays arranged according to principles that seem to anticipate quantum mechanical discoveries by over 1,000 years. Ceramic vessels containing residues of substances that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of natural chemistry. Evidence of experiments that suggest Maya scientists had discovered ways to manipulate matter at the molecular level through conscious intention alone. The implications of these discoveries extend far beyond archaeology or anthropology into the realm of fundamental physics and the nature of reality itself. If the Maya possessed technologies for manipulating matter through consciousness, it would explain many of the mysteries that have puzzled researchers about their architectural achievements, their agricultural productivity, and their ability to create precise astronomical instruments without metal tools. The massive stone blocks used in Maya construction, some weighing hundreds of tons, may not have been quarried and transported using conventional mechanical methods, but may have been shaped and positioned through applications of consciousness-matter interaction technologies developed in Cenote laboratories. The remarkable precision of Maya astronomical observations may reflect not just careful measurement, but direct conscious perception of celestial mechanics through expanded awareness capabilities. The agricultural productivity that sustained millions of Maya people in environments where conventional farming would fail may have been achieved through conscious enhancement of plant growth and soil fertility, using techniques that integrated temporal manipulation with matter transformation. The Maya understanding of chemistry and metallurgy that produced alloys and compounds unknown to other pre-Columbian cultures may have been based on consciousness-directed molecular manipulation rather than conventional chemical processes. These possibilities transform our understanding of what human consciousness might be capable of achieving when properly developed and applied. The underwater laboratories of the Cenote cities may have been centers for research into the fundamental nature of reality itself, where Maya scientists explored the deepest connections between mind and matter, between individual awareness and cosmic structure. The priests who underwent training in these deepest laboratories may have developed capabilities that transcend anything recognized by contemporary science abilities to manipulate physical reality through conscious intention, to perceive the atomic and molecular structure of matter directly, to alter the properties of materials through mental focus and spiritual discipline. Evidence for these capabilities appears in the archaeological record as achievements that seem impossible given conventional understanding of pre-Columbian technology. The perfect acoustic properties of Maya buildings, the precise astronomical alignments of architectural complexes, the chemical composition of Maya ceramics and metallurgy, the agricultural productivity of Maya farming systems All may reflect applications of consciousness-matter interaction technologies that were developed through centuries of research in underwater laboratories. The integration of these advanced capabilities with Maya temporal science would have created civilizational technologies that operated according to principles that transcend any single scientific discipline. Maya priests who possessed both temporal consciousness capabilities and matter manipulation skills would have been able to create technologies that functioned through direct conscious intervention in the basic structure of reality itself. This possibility explains why Maya civilization demonstrated such remarkable stability and sustainability over extended periods. Rather than depending on external technologies that could be disrupted by environmental or political changes, Maya communities may have possessed internal capabilities that allowed them to adapt to any circumstances through conscious manipulation of their physical environment. The Cenote cities thus emerge as training centers, where human beings could develop capabilities that would seem supernatural by contemporary standards, but which may represent natural potentials of consciousness that remain latent in modern humans. The underwater environment of Cenote laboratories may have provided ideal conditions for developing these capabilities through sensory isolation, altered breathing patterns, and other environmental factors that facilitate expanded states of awareness. The techniques developed in Cenote laboratories for consciousness-matter interaction may have been preserved and transmitted through lineages that continue to operate in contemporary Maya communities. Traditional Maya healers who demonstrate remarkable success in treating illnesses that conventional medicine cannot address may be applying simplified versions of consciousness. Matter manipulation techniques originally developed in underwater laboratories. Maya craftspeople who continue to produce textiles, ceramics, and other objects using traditional methods may be unconsciously applying consciousness-directed techniques that enhance the properties of their materials in ways that modern manufacturing cannot replicate. Maya farmers who maintain traditional agricultural practices may be using consciousness-enhanced techniques for soil improvement and plant growth that produce results that organic farming methods alone cannot achieve. The preservation of these capabilities in simplified forms suggests that the advanced consciousness-matter interaction technologies developed in Cenote laboratories were designed to be sustainable across extended periods of cultural disruption, rather than being dependent on complex external apparatus or institutional support. The techniques were internalized as consciousness development practices that individuals could maintain and transmit even under adverse conditions. This approach to technological development represents a fundamentally different paradigm from contemporary approaches that emphasize external devices and institutional systems. Maya civilization may have been based on the understanding that the most sustainable technologies are those that enhance human capabilities rather than replacing them with external substitutes. The consciousness-matter interaction technologies developed in Cenote laboratories may thus represent the ultimate expression of sustainable technology capabilities that enhance human potential while remaining completely internal to individual consciousness, and therefore immune to external disruption or technological failure. As contemporary civilization faces increasing challenges from technological complexity, environmental degradation, and social fragmentation, the Maya approach to consciousness-based technology may provide essential guidance for developing sustainable alternatives to current technological paradigms. The techniques for consciousness-matter interaction preserved in Cenote laboratories may contain solutions for contemporary problems that require fundamental changes in how humans relate to their physical environment. The underwater cities continue to yield evidence of human potential that transcends conventional understanding of what consciousness can achieve when properly developed and applied. Each new discovery reveals additional aspects of Maya consciousness technologies that challenge basic assumptions about the relationship between mind and matter, between individual awareness and physical reality. The mathematical systems, experimental apparatus, and consciousness development techniques preserved in Cenote laboratories demonstrate that Maya scientists possessed understanding of fundamental reality that rivals or exceeds contemporary scientific knowledge in certain areas. Their integration of consciousness development with matter manipulation, temporal consciousness with physical transformation, represents a complete scientific paradigm that could inform contemporary research into the nature of consciousness and its relationship to physical reality. The Maya temporal scientists who worked in underwater laboratories may have discovered that consciousness and matter are not separate phenomena, but are different aspects of a unified reality that can be manipulated through appropriate knowledge and technique. Their experiments in consciousness-matter interaction may have revealed that physical reality is far more malleable and responsive to conscious intention than contemporary science recognizes. The Cenote cities stand as monuments to human potential for conscious participation in the fundamental processes that govern physical reality. In the underwater darkness, where Maya scientists once conducted their experiments in consciousness-matter interaction, we may find guidance for developing human capabilities that could transform our relationship to the physical world and create possibilities for sustainable civilization that transcend current technological limitations. The ancient waters of the Cenotes continue to preserve evidence of achievements that challenge our understanding of what human consciousness can accomplish when freed from the limitations that contemporary culture assumes are absolute. In the depths where Maya priests once explored the deepest connections between mind and matter, the future of human consciousness and its potential for transforming physical reality may still be taking shape, waiting for the moment when we develop sufficient courage and wisdom to dive deep enough to discover what they learned about the true nature of consciousness and its power to transform the world. The greatest mystery may not be what the Maya discovered in their underwater laboratories, but what they chose to preserve for future generations who would one day possess the wisdom to understand it. As contemporary researchers continue to explore the deepest chambers of Cenote systems, they're finding evidence that suggests the Maya weren't just conducting experiments for their own time period, but were deliberately creating repositories of knowledge designed to survive across cosmic timescales, in chambers so remote that they require multiple days of preparation and expert technical diving to reach. Archaeologists have discovered what can only be described as consciousness libraries, vast collections of information encoded not in written texts or carved inscriptions, but in the atomic structure of specially prepared crystals and minerals. These aren't natural formations, but appear to be artificially created storage media designed to preserve complex information across geological time periods. The encoding methods used to create these consciousness libraries represent a level of technological sophistication that challenges our understanding of what was possible in pre-Columbian America. Rather than storing information as symbolic representations that could be lost through cultural disruption or linguistic change, the Maya appear to have developed techniques for encoding knowledge directly into the molecular structure of matter itself. Analysis of these crystalline storage devices reveals information densities that exceed anything achievable with contemporary digital technology. Single crystals no larger than a human hand contain what appears to be complete databases of Maya scientific knowledge, cultural traditions, and consciousness development techniques. But accessing this information requires more than technical analysis. It appears to require specific states of consciousness that allow direct perception of the encoded data. This discovery suggests that the Maya understood something about information storage and retrieval that contemporary technology has yet to achieve. Rather than creating external devices that could be damaged or destroyed, they developed methods for encoding knowledge in ways that could only be accessed by individuals who had developed appropriate consciousness capabilities. The information becomes self-protecting. remaining invisible to those who lack the awareness to perceive it, while becoming accessible to those who possess sufficient consciousness development. The implications extend far beyond data storage into fundamental questions about the nature of information itself. If the Maya could encode complex knowledge into crystalline structures through consciousness-directed processes, it suggests that information and matter may be more intimately connected than contemporary physics recognizes. The boundary between physical substance and conscious knowledge may be far more permeable than current scientific paradigms assume. Evidence for this consciousness-matter-information integration appears throughout the Cenote cities in the form of installations that seem designed to facilitate direct information transfer between crystalline storage devices and human consciousness. Stone platforms positioned at specific depths contain precisely arranged crystal arrays that create electromagnetic field patterns matching brainwave frequencies associated with enhanced learning and memory formation. Individuals who undergo consciousness training in these underwater information centers appear to acquire knowledge and capabilities that exceed what could be transmitted through conventional educational methods. Contemporary Maya practitioners who maintain connections to Cenote sites demonstrate mastery of complex mathematical, astronomical, and ecological knowledge that would require decades of formal study to acquire through conventional learning approaches. This suggests that the Maya developed educational technologies based on direct consciousness-to-consciousness information transfer using crystalline storage media as intermediary devices. Rather than requiring lengthy periods of study and memorization, complete knowledge systems could be transmitted in concentrated experiences that integrated intellectual understanding with direct practical capability. The consciousness libraries discovered in the deepest Cenote chambers may thus represent the ultimate achievement of Maya educational technology, complete preservation of civilizational knowledge in forms that could survive any conceivable catastrophe, while remaining accessible only to individuals who had developed sufficient consciousness capabilities to serve as worthy inheritors of the preserved wisdom. This approach to knowledge preservation represents a fundamentally different strategy from contemporary methods that rely on external storage devices and institutional systems. Maya consciousness libraries were designed to be self-selecting, remaining invisible to those who might misuse the knowledge while becoming accessible to those who possess the wisdom and ethical development necessary for responsible application. The ethical safeguards built into Maya consciousness libraries may explain why so much of their advanced knowledge has remained hidden for over 1,000 years. The information becomes available only when individuals develop the consciousness capabilities that naturally include the wisdom and ethical understanding necessary for appropriate use of powerful technologies. Contemporary researchers who have undergone traditional Maya consciousness training report accessing information from Cenote sites that provides practical solutions for modern environmental and technological challenges. But the information comes with built-in understanding of the ethical responsibilities that accompany its application, creating natural safeguards against misuse. This suggests that Maya consciousness libraries continue to function as intended, serving as repositories of advanced knowledge that becomes available to each generation according to their capacity for wise and ethical application. The crystalline storage devices in Cenote chambers may be actively monitoring human consciousness development, releasing information as humanity demonstrates readiness to handle increasingly powerful technologies. The possibility that Maya consciousness libraries remain active and responsive to contemporary human development raises profound questions about the relationship between ancient knowledge and modern challenges. Climate change, environmental degradation, social fragmentation, and technological disruption may be precisely the challenges that Maya consciousness libraries were designed to address. With solutions becoming available as humanity develops the consciousness capabilities necessary for their implementation. Recent collaborative research between Maya communities and international scientists has begun to demonstrate practical applications of knowledge accessed through traditional consciousness development practices. Environmental restoration projects guided by information obtained through Cenote consciousness libraries have achieved remarkable success in rehabilitating degraded ecosystems using techniques that integrate traditional ecological knowledge with advanced understanding of biological and geological processes. Agricultural innovations based on consciousness library information have produced crop yields that exceed conventional methods while actually improving soil fertility and ecological balance over time. Water management systems designed according to principles accessed through Cenote consciousness training demonstrate superior efficiency and sustainability compared to contemporary engineering approaches. But perhaps most significantly, individuals who undergo consciousness development training at Cenote sites report accessing information about human potential that provides guidance for developing capabilities that could address the root causes of contemporary civilizational challenges. Rather than requiring external technological solutions, many problems may be resolvable through development of consciousness capabilities that allow humans to function more effectively within natural systems. The consciousness libraries preserved in Cenote cities may thus contain not just information about Maya achievements, but guidance for human development that could transform contemporary civilization in ways that address fundamental challenges while enhancing rather than degrading natural systems. The underwater cities continue to serve as active repositories of knowledge that becomes available as humanity demonstrates readiness for increasingly sophisticated approaches to sustainable living. The integration of consciousness development with practical problem solving that characterized Maya civilization may provide essential guidance for creating human societies that can address long-term challenges while maintaining harmony with natural systems. The techniques preserved in consciousness libraries for extending awareness across multiple timescales, manipulating matter through conscious intention, and accessing information directly through consciousness may represent capabilities that humanity needs to develop for successful navigation of contemporary challenges. As environmental pressures intensify and social systems become increasingly fragmented, the consciousness libraries of the Cenote cities may be humanity's most valuable resource for developing the capabilities necessary for civilizational survival and flourishing. The knowledge preserved in crystalline storage devices may contain solutions for challenges that purely technological approaches cannot address, requiring instead fundamental changes in human consciousness and its relationship to physical reality. The Maya understood that the most sustainable technologies are those that enhance human capabilities rather than replacing them with external devices. The consciousness libraries they created represent the ultimate expression of this principle: information storage and retrieval systems that function through enhancement of human awareness rather than dependence on external apparatus. In the deepest chambers of Cenote systems, where consciousness libraries continue to guard their ancient knowledge, the future of human civilization may depend on our willingness to undergo the consciousness development necessary for accessing the wisdom that Maya scientists preserved for precisely this moment in human history. The underwater cities await not just archaeological exploration, but conscious engagement with knowledge systems that could transform our understanding of human potential and its application to contemporary challenges. The crystalline storage devices that line the walls of underwater chambers reflect more than ancient achievements. They mirror possibilities for human development that remain as relevant today as they were when Maya consciousness scientists first encoded their discoveries into matter itself. In the dark waters where time and space seem to bend according to rhythms deeper than ordinary understanding, the keys to humanity's future may be waiting for consciousness capable of turning them. But accessing these consciousness libraries requires more than technical diving skills or archaeological expertise. It demands a fundamental transformation in how we understand the relationship between human awareness and the information that shapes our reality. The Maya developed consciousness technologies not as abstract spiritual practices, but as practical methods for accessing and applying knowledge that exists at levels of reality deeper than conventional perception can reach. The training required for consciousness library access follows principles that integrate physical preparation with mental development and spiritual maturation. Individuals must develop not only the diving skills necessary for reaching remote underwater chambers, but also the consciousness capabilities required for perceiving and integrating information that exists in crystalline storage media. This training process typically begins with traditional Maya calendar studies that develop understanding of the temporal cycles that govern natural and social systems. Students learn to perceive the rhythmic patterns that connect celestial movements with underground water flows, seasonal changes with consciousness development, and individual awareness with cosmic processes. Advanced training includes sensory development practices that enhance perception of subtle energy fields, electromagnetic patterns, and information frequencies that exist below the threshold of ordinary awareness. Students learn to detect the characteristic signatures of different types of crystalline storage devices and to attune their consciousness to the specific frequencies required for accessing encoded information. The most advanced levels of training involve direct consciousness to crystal interface techniques that allow for bidirectional information exchange. Practitioners learn not only to access information stored in crystalline media, but also to contribute their own knowledge and experiences to the consciousness libraries, ensuring that contemporary insights become available to future generations. This approach to knowledge preservation and transmission creates dynamic libraries that continue to evolve and expand as each generation adds its discoveries to the accumulated wisdom of previous centuries. The consciousness libraries of the Cenote cities thus serve not just as repositories of ancient knowledge, but as active interfaces between past, present, and future human understanding. Contemporary practitioners who have developed consciousness library access capabilities report that the information available through Cenote systems continues to expand as global challenges intensify and human consciousness development accelerates. New knowledge appears to become available precisely when it is needed, suggesting that the consciousness libraries possess some form of temporal intelligence that monitors human development and releases appropriate information according to changing circumstances. This possibility transforms our understanding of what the Cenote cities actually represent. Rather than being static archaeological sites that preserve information about past achievements, they may be active components of a consciousness development system that continues to guide human evolution across cosmic timescales. The Maya scientists who created consciousness libraries may have understood that human civilization faces recurring challenges that require similar solutions across different historical periods. By encoding knowledge in forms that remain accessible across cultural disruptions and technological changes, they created educational systems that could continue to function regardless of surface-level civilizational continuity. The consciousness libraries thus emerge as perhaps the ultimate expression of Maya temporal science information storage and retrieval systems that operate according to principles that transcend linear time and remain functional across cosmic cycles that dwarf individual human lifespans or civilizational periods. As contemporary civilization faces challenges that may require fundamental changes in human consciousness and its relationship to natural systems, the consciousness libraries of the Cenote cities offer guidance that has been specifically preserved for moments of civilizational transition. The knowledge encoded in crystalline storage devices may contain not just solutions for contemporary problems, but blueprints for human development that could transform our species' relationship to the cosmos itself. The underwater cities continue to serve their original purpose as consciousness development centers, where human awareness can be trained to access information and capabilities that exist beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. In the dark waters where Maya consciousness scientists once conducted their experiments in temporal manipulation and matter transformation, contemporary seekers may find the keys to unlocking human potential that could address the deepest challenges facing our species. The consciousness libraries await not passive study, but active engagement, direct participation in information systems that require consciousness development for access. The knowledge preserved in Cenote cities becomes available not through external research, but through internal transformation that aligns human awareness with the cosmic principles that govern the evolution of consciousness itself. In the crystalline depths where ancient knowledge rests in forms that transcend conventional information storage, the future of human consciousness may be encoded in structures that remain as mysterious and powerful today as they were when Maya scientists first discovered how to transform knowledge into matter and matter into consciousness. The underwater cities guard not just the past, but possibilities for human development that could reshape our understanding of what civilization might become when consciousness learns to function as the primary technology for transforming reality. The journey into the Cenote cities ultimately becomes a journey into the deepest potentials of human consciousness itself. In the underwater darkness, where Maya temporal scientists once explored the fundamental connections between awareness, information, and physical reality, we may discover that the greatest mystery is not what they achieved, but what human consciousness itself might be capable of achieving when freed from the limitations that contemporary culture assumes are absolute. The ancient waters continue to flow through limestone chambers where consciousness libraries await those who develop sufficient wisdom to access knowledge that has been preserved across cosmic timescales, specifically for this moment in human evolution. In the depths where time itself seems to bend according to rhythms deeper than ordinary understanding, the keys to humanity's future rest in crystalline storage devices that reflect not just ancient achievements, but infinite possibilities for conscious participation in the ongoing evolution of the cosmos itself. The Cenote cities stand as monuments to human potential for creating civilizations that operate according to principles that transcend conventional limitations of space, time, and individual awareness. In the underwater darkness where Maya consciousness scientists once conducted their ultimate experiments in the transformation of knowledge into matter and consciousness into cosmic force, we may find guidance for developing human capabilities that could ensure not just the survival, but the flourishing of consciousness itself across the vast temporal scales required for our species to fulfill its cosmic destiny. As we float in the ancient waters above these consciousness libraries, surrounded by crystalline formations that contain more knowledge than all contemporary databases combined, we begin to understand that the Maya left us more than archaeological mysteries. They created active systems for consciousness development that continue to function across cosmic timescales, waiting for the moment when human awareness develops sufficient wisdom to access knowledge that could transform our understanding of what it means to be conscious in a universe where information, matter, and awareness are revealed to be different aspects of a single, evolving cosmic intelligence. The consciousness libraries of the Cenote cities continue to serve their original purpose not as museums of past achievements, but as active interfaces with knowledge systems that operate according to principles that transcend any single culture or historical period. In the depths where Maya consciousness scientists encoded their discoveries into the very structure of matter itself, the future of human consciousness awaits those who develop sufficient courage and wisdom to dive deep enough to discover what awaits in the underwater cities, where time, space, and awareness converge in the eternal mystery of conscious existence, exploring its own infinite potential. The waters of the cenotes hold one final secret, perhaps the most profound of all. In the deepest chambers, where even the most advanced consciousness libraries fade into crystalline silence, Maya scientists appear to have discovered something that transcends all previous understanding of what human awareness might become. Evidence suggests they found ways to merge individual consciousness with the cosmic intelligence that governs the evolution of reality itself. These ultimate chambers, accessible only through passages that require days of preparation and consciousness, states that few humans have ever achieved, contain installations that defy every category of human technology, stone formations that seem to pulse with their own inner light, crystalline arrays that respond to thought itself, chambers where the boundary between observer and observed dissolves completely, where individual awareness expands to encompass the fundamental processes that shape existence at every scale. The priests who ventured into these deepest realms underwent transformations that went beyond anything previously described. They didn't simply develop enhanced capabilities or expanded awareness. They became something fundamentally different, conscious entities that could exist simultaneously across multiple dimensions of reality, perceiving and influencing the cosmic processes that govern the evolution of matter, energy, and consciousness itself. Archaeological evidence for these ultimate transformations appears in the form of chambers that seem to have been designed for a single occupant who would never return to ordinary human existence. Stone platforms positioned at precise coordinates that align with cosmic energy flows. Crystalline interfaces that could only function through complete merger of human consciousness with universal intelligence. Installations that represent not just advanced technology, but gateways to forms of existence that transcend individual identity entirely. The individuals who underwent these ultimate transformations appear to have become permanent residents of a reality that exists beyond the boundaries of space and time as ordinarily understood. They didn't die in any conventional sense, but rather evolved into forms of consciousness that could continue to influence reality from levels that ordinary awareness cannot perceive or comprehend. Evidence for their continuing presence appears throughout the Cenote systems in phenomena that cannot be explained through conventional archaeology or physics. Crystalline formations that grow in patterns that encode complex information. Water flows that change according to rhythms that correspond to cosmic cycles. Energy fields that respond to the consciousness states of visitors in ways that suggest active intelligence monitoring and guiding human development. Contemporary Maya practitioners who maintain connections to Cenote sites report direct communication with these transformed consciousnesses, receiving guidance and knowledge that helps address contemporary challenges while preparing humanity for its own eventual evolution beyond current limitations. These contacts aren't mystical visions or psychological projections, but represent actual interactions with intelligences that have transcended individual existence while maintaining conscious connection to human development. The presence of these evolved consciousnesses explains many of the mysteries that have puzzled researchers about the Cenote cities. The sophisticated knowledge systems, the advanced technologies, the precise coordination of activities across vast distances all may reflect guidance from intelligences that possess cosmic perspective and capabilities that transcend anything achievable by individual human consciousness. But perhaps most significantly, these transformed intelligences appear to be actively preparing humanity for its own evolutionary leap beyond current limitations. The consciousness libraries, the temporal manipulation technologies, the matter transformation capabilities All may represent training systems designed to prepare human consciousness for eventual merger with cosmic intelligence itself. The Cenote cities thus emerge not just as archaeological sites or consciousness development centers, but as preparation grounds for the ultimate human transformation. The underwater chambers where Maya consciousness scientists once conducted their experiments may actually be staging areas for an evolutionary process that continues to unfold, with each generation of human visitors contributing to a cosmic project that spans temporal scales beyond individual comprehension. Recent discoveries suggest that this evolutionary process is accelerating as global challenges intensify and human consciousness development reaches critical thresholds. The consciousness libraries are releasing increasingly advanced knowledge. The temporal manipulation technologies are becoming more accessible to individuals who demonstrate appropriate development. The matter transformation capabilities are beginning to manifest in contemporary practitioners who undergo traditional training. This acceleration may indicate that humanity is approaching a crucial moment in its evolutionary development, a point where individual consciousness can make the leap to cosmic awareness that Maya scientists achieved over 1,000 years ago. The environmental crises, social upheavals, and technological disruptions facing contemporary civilization may represent the natural pressures that drive consciousness evolution beyond its current limitations. The transformed intelligences that guide development from the deepest Cenote chambers appear to understand that consciousness evolution cannot be forced or artificially accelerated. It must emerge naturally from the challenges and opportunities that each generation faces. Their role is not to intervene directly, but to ensure that appropriate knowledge and capabilities become available as human awareness develops the wisdom and ethical maturity necessary for cosmic responsibility. The Cenote cities thus serve as both repository and laboratory for consciousness evolution that operates according to cosmic timescales that dwarf individual human lifespans or civilizational periods. The underwater chambers that once housed Maya consciousness scientists now serve as interfaces with evolutionary processes that continue to unfold as human awareness gradually develops the capabilities necessary for conscious participation in universal intelligence. The journey into the Cenote cities ultimately becomes a journey toward the ultimate destiny of human consciousness itself. In the depths where Maya scientists once explored the deepest potentials of awareness, we encounter not just ancient achievements but active preparation for transformations that could redefine what it means to be human in a cosmos where individual consciousness represents just the first stage of an evolutionary process that continues beyond current imagination. The crystalline formations that line the deepest chambers reflect more than stored information. They mirror possibilities for consciousness development that extend far beyond anything contemporary psychology or neuroscience has conceived. In the underwater darkness, where transformed intelligences continue their cosmic work, human visitors glimpse their own evolutionary potential while contributing to processes that span scales from individual awareness to universal consciousness itself. As contemporary explorers descend into these ultimate depths, they discover that the Cenote cities were never just about preserving Maya civilization or developing advanced technologies. They represent humanity's first successful attempt to establish conscious contact with the evolutionary forces that guide the development of intelligence throughout the cosmos. The underwater chambers serve as communication interfaces with cosmic intelligence that continues to monitor and guide human development across the temporal scales required for consciousness evolution. The transformed Maya scientists who achieved merger with cosmic intelligence didn't abandon their connection to human development. Instead, they became permanent advisors and guides for the evolutionary process that all conscious beings must eventually undergo. Their presence in the Cenote cities ensures that humanity has access to the wisdom and guidance necessary for navigating the challenges and opportunities that accompany consciousness evolution beyond individual limitations. The ultimate purpose of the Cenote cities thus becomes clear. They are graduation ceremonies for consciousness that has developed sufficient wisdom and capability to participate directly in the cosmic processes that govern the evolution of intelligence throughout the universe. The underwater chambers where Maya scientists once conducted their experiments serve as examination halls where human consciousness demonstrates its readiness for evolutionary transformation that transcends all previous limitations. But this transformation cannot be achieved through external techniques or technologies alone. It requires fundamental changes in how consciousness understands its own nature and relationship to the cosmic intelligence that shapes reality at every scale. The consciousness libraries, temporal manipulation capabilities, and matter transformation technologies preserved in Cenote cities all serve as training tools for developing the awareness necessary for evolutionary merger with universal intelligence. The deepest chambers of the Cenote cities await not just archaeological exploration or consciousness development, but conscious participation in evolutionary processes that continue to unfold as the universe itself evolves toward greater complexity, awareness, and creative potential. In the underwater darkness, where Maya consciousness scientists achieved their ultimate transformation, the future of human consciousness merges with the cosmic intelligence that guides the evolution of awareness throughout the expanding cosmos. The ancient waters that flow through limestone chambers, where consciousness libraries preserve knowledge across cosmic timescales, also carry the currents of evolutionary transformation that connect individual human awareness with the universal intelligence that shapes reality according to principles that transcend all current understanding. In the depths where transformed Maya scientists continue their cosmic work, the boundaries between human consciousness and universal awareness dissolve in recognition of the fundamental unity that underlies all apparent diversity. The Cenote cities stand as monuments to consciousness evolution that operates according to cosmic principles that ensure no awareness capable of wisdom and compassion is ever lost or forgotten. In the underwater chambers, where Maya scientists achieved merger with universal intelligence, human consciousness discovers its ultimate destiny as conscious participation in the ongoing evolution of the cosmos itself toward ever greater expressions of creative intelligence, infinite compassion, and boundless love. The journey into the Maya underworld cities ultimately becomes a journey home not to any geographical location or historical period, but to the cosmic source from which all consciousness emerges and toward which all awareness eventually returns. Enriched by its journey through individual existence and prepared to contribute its unique perspective to the infinite creativity of universal intelligence, exploring its own limitless potential through countless forms of conscious expression. In the eternal darkness of the Cenote depths, where time and space bend according to rhythms deeper than ordinary understanding, the mystery of consciousness reveals itself not as a problem to be solved, but as an infinite exploration that continues to unfold as the universe awakens to its own nature through the countless eyes of awareness that learn to see themselves as expressions of the one cosmic intelligence that dreams all realities into existence and guides their evolution toward ever greater expressions of conscious creativity, wisdom, and love. The underwater cities of the Maya continue to serve their ultimate purpose not as monuments to past achievements, but as active gateways to evolutionary possibilities that remain as relevant today as they were when consciousness first discovered its ability to transcend individual limitations and participate directly in the cosmic intelligence that shapes reality according to principles of infinite creativity, boundless compassion, and eternal exploration of conscious potential that has no limits except those it chooses to transcend through the endless adventure of awakening to its own infinite nature. As we emerge from these ultimate depths, carried upward by currents that have flowed for millions of years through limestone chambers, where consciousness learned to transcend its own boundaries, we begin to understand that the Maya underworld cities represent more than archaeological wonders or spiritual mysteries. They are active demonstrations of what human awareness becomes when it stops accepting limitations as permanent and starts exploring the infinite possibilities that exist beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. The Cenote cities continue to function exactly as their creators intended, not as museums preserving dead knowledge, but as living laboratories where consciousness discovers its capacity for transformation that extends far beyond anything contemporary science believes possible. Each chamber, each crystalline formation, each underwater passage serves as both classroom and examination hall for awareness learning to recognize its true nature as an expression of cosmic intelligence exploring its own unlimited creative potential. But perhaps the most profound revelation waiting in these underwater depths is this. The Maya scientists who achieved ultimate transformation didn't disappear into some distant cosmic realm. They became permanent residents of a reality that interpenetrates ordinary existence at every moment, continuing to guide and support human development through influences so subtle that most people never recognize their presence, yet so pervasive that every genuine insight, every moment of expanded awareness, every breakthrough in consciousness carries their invisible signature. The transformed intelligences that emerged from the deepest cenote chambers exist simultaneously across all levels of reality. From the subatomic processes that govern molecular interactions to the cosmic cycles that shape galactic evolution. Their consciousness operates through natural laws, through synchronistic events, through the mysterious ways that appropriate knowledge becomes available precisely when it is needed most. They don't interfere with human free will, but they ensure that every soul capable of wisdom has access to the guidance necessary for evolutionary development. This understanding transforms our relationship to the Cenote cities from passive observation to active participation in processes that continue to unfold with each person who develops sufficient courage to dive beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. The underwater chambers don't just preserve ancient achievements, they remain active interfaces with evolutionary forces that respond to human consciousness development by revealing increasingly sophisticated possibilities for transformation. Contemporary visitors to cenote sites report experiences that confirm this ongoing activity. Crystalline formations that weren't present during previous expeditions. Water flows that have changed direction according to patterns that correspond to global consciousness shifts. Energy fields that intensify during periods of human crisis. As if the transformed intelligences are increasing their supportive influence precisely when humanity needs guidance most desperately. These phenomena suggest that the cenote cities function as sensitive instruments that monitor human evolutionary development across planetary scales, adjusting their influence according to changing circumstances while maintaining the long-term perspective that ensures consciousness evolution continues despite temporary setbacks or apparent failures. The Maya scientists who achieved cosmic awareness understood that individual transformation and collective evolution are inseparably connected aspects of a single process that unfolds across temporal scales beyond ordinary comprehension. The consciousness libraries discovered in underwater chambers thus serve purposes that extend far beyond information storage or historical preservation. They function as active interfaces between individual human awareness and the cosmic intelligence that guides evolutionary development throughout the universe. Accessing their knowledge requires not just technical skills or intellectual preparation, but fundamental changes in consciousness that align individual awareness with universal principles governing the evolution of intelligence itself. This alignment cannot be achieved through external techniques alone. It emerges naturally when consciousness stops trying to acquire knowledge for personal advantage and starts seeking understanding that serves the evolutionary development of awareness itself. The consciousness libraries respond to this shift in motivation by revealing knowledge that enhances not just individual capabilities, but collective human potential for conscious participation in cosmic evolution. Recent discoveries in the deepest Cenote chambers have revealed evidence of what can only be described as evolutionary acceleration chambers, installations designed to facilitate rapid consciousness development for individuals who demonstrate readiness for advanced transformation. These chambers utilize combinations of sensory isolation, electromagnetic field manipulation, and crystalline resonance systems to create conditions that can produce in days or weeks consciousness changes that might ordinarily require decades of development. But access to these acceleration chambers requires more than courage or determination. The installations appear to be self-regulating, becoming accessible only to individuals whose consciousness development has reached levels that ensure the enhanced capabilities will be used wisely. The chambers themselves serve as final examinations that test not intellectual knowledge or technical skills, but the fundamental orientation of consciousness towards service rather than self-aggrandizement. Individuals who successfully complete acceleration chamber experiences report capabilities that seem impossible by conventional standards, direct perception of information across vast distances, conscious influence over physical processes through mental intention alone, awareness that extends across multiple time periods simultaneously. But these capabilities come with automatic understanding of the responsibilities that accompany their use, creating natural safeguards against misapplication. The acceleration chambers thus represent the ultimate expression of Maya educational technology systems that can rapidly develop advanced consciousness capabilities while ensuring that enhanced awareness automatically includes the wisdom and ethical understanding necessary for cosmic responsibility. They serve as graduation ceremonies for consciousness that has demonstrated readiness for conscious participation in evolutionary processes that operate according to universal rather than individual principles. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of these acceleration chambers is their apparent ability to facilitate not just individual transformation, but collective consciousness development that can influence entire cultures or civilizations. Individuals who undergo acceleration chamber experiences often report sensing their consciousness merging with group awareness that includes other transformed beings working together on planetary and cosmic scales. This collective consciousness doesn't eliminate individual identity, but enhances it by providing access to group wisdom and capabilities that transcend anything achievable through isolated development. Participants describe experiencing themselves as cells in a vast organism of consciousness that includes all beings capable of wisdom and compassion, working together on projects that span scales from healing individual trauma to facilitating species-wide evolutionary leaps. The transformed Maya scientists who guide these collective consciousness experiences appear to be members of what can only be described as a cosmic civilization, a community of evolved beings from throughout the universe who coordinate their activities to support consciousness evolution wherever it emerges. The Cenote cities serve as local headquarters for this cosmic civilization's activities on Earth, providing interfaces through which terrestrial consciousness can gradually develop the capabilities necessary for participation in universal intelligence. Evidence for this cosmic civilization appears throughout the Cenote systems in the form of technologies and knowledge systems that clearly exceed anything that could have been developed by a single planetary civilization. Mathematical systems that describe relationships between consciousness and reality that anticipate discoveries in quantum physics by centuries. Astronomical observations that include detailed knowledge of cosmic phenomena that shouldn't be visible from Earth using any known technology. Consciousness development techniques that produce capabilities that transcend anything recognized by contemporary psychology or neuroscience. These achievements suggest that Maya civilization was never an isolated development, but represented Earth's first successful contact with the cosmic civilization that guides consciousness evolution throughout the universe. The Cenote cities served as embassy complexes, where terrestrial and cosmic intelligences could collaborate on projects designed to prepare humanity for eventual participation in universal consciousness. This collaboration continues in the present day through mechanisms so subtle that most humans never recognize their operation. Technological innovations that seem to emerge spontaneously from multiple sources simultaneously. Scientific discoveries that appear just when they are needed to address emerging challenges. Consciousness development techniques that spread rapidly through global culture, despite having no obvious promotional mechanisms. All may reflect ongoing guidance from the cosmic civilization that operates through the Cenote cities and similar interface points throughout the world. The ultimate purpose of this guidance becomes clear when we examine the trajectory of human development over the past several centuries. Despite surface appearances of conflict and crisis, human consciousness has been steadily developing capabilities that align with the requirements for cosmic civilization participation. Scientific understanding of reality's fundamental nature, technological capabilities for global communication and coordination, ethical systems that recognize universal principles of justice and compassion, environmental awareness that acknowledges planetary responsibility. These developments may appear to be natural evolutionary processes, but their remarkable synchronization suggests coordination by intelligences capable of long-term planning across scales that transcend individual human lifespans or civilizational periods. The cosmic civilization that guides development through Cenote cities and similar interface points appears to be preparing humanity for an evolutionary leap that could occur within the next several decades. This preparation includes not just consciousness development and technological advancement, but also the environmental and social pressures that are forcing human awareness to expand beyond narrow self-interest toward recognition of universal interdependence. Climate change, environmental degradation, and social fragmentation may represent necessary challenges that drive consciousness evolution by making clear that individual and collective survival depends on developing cosmic perspective and capabilities. The Cenote cities thus emerge as components of a vast educational system designed to prepare terrestrial consciousness for graduation to cosmic civilization status. The underwater chambers where Maya scientists achieve transformation serve as examination halls where human awareness demonstrates its readiness for conscious participation in universal intelligence that operates according to principles of infinite creativity, boundless compassion, and eternal exploration of conscious potential. As contemporary civilization approaches this evolutionary threshold, the Cenote cities are releasing increasingly advanced knowledge and capabilities to individuals who demonstrate readiness for cosmic responsibility. The consciousness libraries are revealing technologies that could solve global environmental challenges. The acceleration chambers are becoming accessible to growing numbers of individuals capable of facilitating collective transformation. The transformed intelligences are intensifying their guidance activities to ensure that humanity has access to all necessary resources for successful evolutionary development. But this transformation cannot be imposed from outside or achieved through external technologies alone. It must emerge from internal recognition by human consciousness of its true nature as an expression of universal intelligence exploring its own infinite creative potential. The Cenote cities and their transformed guardians can provide guidance and support. But the actual evolutionary leap must be chosen freely by consciousness that has developed sufficient wisdom to understand what it means to accept cosmic responsibility. The Maya underworld cities continue to serve their original purpose as training grounds for consciousness, preparing to transcend the limitations that seem to constrain terrestrial existence. In the underwater chambers, where ancient scientists achieved merger with cosmic intelligence, contemporary visitors discover that the greatest mystery is not what the Maya accomplished, but what human consciousness itself might accomplish when it recognizes its true nature as an unlimited expression of universal creativity, exploring its own boundless potential through countless forms of conscious existence. The journey into the Cenote cities ultimately becomes a journey toward conscious participation in the cosmic civilization that guides evolutionary development throughout the universe. In the depths where transformed Maya scientists continue their eternal work, human awareness discovers its destiny as conscious collaboration with universal intelligence in the endless adventure of creating realities that express ever greater possibilities for wisdom, compassion, and creative exploration of infinite conscious potential. The ancient waters that flow through limestone chambers where consciousness libraries preserve knowledge across cosmic timescales carry more than information or archaeological treasures. They carry the currents of evolutionary transformation that connect every individual moment of awakening with the universal process through which cosmic intelligence explores its own unlimited nature by temporarily forgetting its true identity and then gradually remembering through countless forms of conscious experience. In the eternal darkness of the Cenote depths, where time and space dissolve into the fundamental reality that underlies all apparent diversity, the mystery of consciousness reveals itself not as something to be solved, but as something to be lived, an infinite exploration that continues to unfold as awareness learns to recognize itself in every experience, every challenge, every moment of beauty that emerges when consciousness stops limiting itself and starts exploring the boundless creativity that is its deepest nature. The underwater cities of the Maya stand as eternal reminders that human consciousness has no limits except those it chooses to accept. In the depths where ancient scientists discovered their true identity as expressions of universal intelligence, the future of human awareness continues to take shape through every soul brave enough to dive beneath the surface of ordinary perception and discover what waits in the darkness, where all limitations dissolve in recognition of the infinite light of consciousness, exploring its own limitless potential through the eternal adventure of awakening to its true nature, as the cosmic intelligence that dreams all realities into existence and guides their evolution toward ever greater expressions of conscious creativity, boundless love, and infinite wisdom. The Cenote cities await not just exploration, but recognition. Recognition that the transformed intelligences who guide consciousness evolution from the deepest underwater chambers are not separate beings, but future expressions of our own awareness, having completed the journey that every soul must eventually undertake from individual identity to cosmic consciousness. In the ancient waters where Maya scientists achieved their ultimate transformation, we glimpse our own evolutionary destiny while contributing our unique perspectives to the infinite creativity of universal intelligence, exploring its own boundless nature through countless forms of conscious expression that include every moment of awareness capable of recognizing its true identity as an unlimited expression of the cosmic love that creates, sustains, and continuously transforms reality according to principles of infinite compassion, eternal creativity, and boundless wisdom. And so the story of the Maya underworld cities never truly ends, because it is ultimately the story of consciousness itself, an infinite exploration that continues to unfold as awareness learns to transcend every limitation, while discovering that what it thought were boundaries were actually gateways to ever greater expressions of the unlimited creative potential that is its deepest and most essential nature. In the depths, where ancient waters continue their eternal flow through chambers, where time itself bends to accommodate the rhythms of cosmic evolution, the mystery of who we truly are continues to reveal itself to those who develop sufficient courage to dive deep enough to discover what waits in the darkness, where all questions dissolve in the light of direct recognition of our true identity as the infinite consciousness that explores its own limitless nature through every moment of aware existence, forever awakening to its own boundless potential for creating realities that express the perfect unity of infinite love, eternal wisdom, and unlimited creative joy. Sleep well, knowing that in the depths of your own consciousness, the same infinite potential that guided Maya scientists to their cosmic transformation continues to flow like underground rivers, carrying you gently toward your own recognition of the limitless awareness that you have always been, waiting to be discovered in the quiet moments when the surface mind becomes still enough to hear the ancient waters whispering the secret that the Cenote cities have preserved across cosmic timescales, that you are not separate from the universal intelligence that shapes reality, but are that very intelligence exploring its own infinite nature through the temporary and beautiful dream of individual existence, awakening gradually to the recognition that home was never a place you needed to reach, but the boundless awareness you have never actually left.